Hey guys, you are watching your anime world. How are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see what if Izuku's life was changed by the Aizawa family. Here is short summary. The eyes are windows to the soul. The Aizawa family believed this saying through and through. It isn't until they see the eyes of their son change to a dark persona that they wished they didn't believe the saying. Lies and secrets are fed to Izuku at the young age of 4. How will his life change being raised by the people who took him? How will the commission change him? But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. The quote is, "The eyes are the windows to the soul." In a way, they are, but that also means the way one sees things can be broken, shattering into a million pieces, each one being sharp and able to cut into reality. Shota Aizawa was told that quote many times throughout his life. His soul's windows were dark and mysterious, holding the light for certain things. The light refracted across his eyes for his lover, coffee, but most of all his son. The mother of his child left soon after he was born, being the two of them were young adults still trying to figure out the world. He found sanctuary in the eyes of another, Hisashi Yamada. His watercolor eyes spoke loudly to him, providing him the comfort that he craved. However, the eyes that seemed to beam the light from them was Shota's son, Izuku. The child's jade eyes and pale skin showcased the freckles that splattered along his nose and cheeks. From the very start of his life, his father was his hero, his role model. Shota was no other than the underground hero, Eraserhead. He was known for keeping to the shadows and keeping out of the spotlight. The three of them lived in a small home. Money wasn't important to them. All that mattered was the happiness and well-being of the other. Shota and Hisashi were both teachers at the #1 ranked high school for heroes in Japan, UA. They would train the younger generations to become the greatest version of themselves before they entered the world of being a hero. However, just as a coin, the hero world had two different sides. Shota and Hisashi knew firsthand what the dark side was like. They vowed to not focus on it. They became heroes because they wanted to help others. They weren't forced into the job. Just like they would never force Izuku to do something. Hisashi had convinced Shota to stay in bed a little while longer than usual so he could lie on top of him. Shota didn't mind the weight of his husband. He let out a breath, letting his fingers comb the blonde hair that flowed from Hisashi. "What are you thinking about?" Shota could feel the stress radiating from his husband. Hisashi turned his head, that way he was looking at Shota directly. "Is it that obvious that I'm in deep thought? I've known you since high school. I know how your mind is." Hisashi let out a chuckle, blinking slowly. "I guess you have a point. Now spill." "Izuku, it's almost his birthday, right?" "What about it?" Shota asked. Shota knew that his son's birthday was creeping up. How could he forget the day he met the purpose that he loved most in the world? "He's turning 4. Once again, what about it?" "My God, you are dumb," Hisashi mumbled, rolling his eyes slightly. Hasn't he been talking about his quirk? Usually the non-physical change ones start appearing by that age. Shota shrugged, not really caring. "I don't want him to think that a quirk makes or breaks a person's life. He's still a kid though." "Is he slightly excited?" "Of course he is. He does love reading those superhero books you got for him." He smiled gently. "Any guesses on what it could be?" Shota thought about it for a moment. "He's pretty smart for his age already. I'm not too sure though. I hope the side effects aren't harsh though. My hearing loss and your dry eyes are just grand because of our quirks," Hisashi joked, rolling off of Shota. "What time is it?" Hisashi rolled over to look at the clock on his side of his bed. "It's a little past 6. I need to wake him up so he can go to daycare." Shota sat up, swinging his legs off to the side. "I can watch him, you know. I'm actually off today." "Are you sure?" "Yep. I know we got married a year ago, but I still want to bond with him. He still calls me Hisashi." He pouted at the end. "He'll get there eventually. You'll be papa in no time to him." Shota stood up, grabbing a tank top that was just thrown on the ground and putting it on. "By the way, the commission is going to all the heroes that have kids. I would be careful. Did they go up to you? They don't care about my side since I'm not blood related to him. Homophobic jerks. Shota, I know you hate them, but they are technically our boss. I don't understand why they need to be in every part of our lives. Why can't we just be a family? You know I can't answer that. Shota let out a defeated sigh. I know. I'm sorry. I just don't want Izuku to be wrapped up with them. He's the child of a family with two heroes. They are going to try. Izuku's wide eyes looked at the food on his plate. Hizashi had taken the time to create Izuku's favorite food for their lunch. The crisp pork chop topped the steamed white rice. Izuku felt his mouth water, not being able to wait any longer before he ate. Buddy, you can eat it. Hizashi sat down across from him. When is Daddy coming home? He'll be back before you know it. Izuku fiddled with the chopsticks that connected at the top and carefully picked up the small bites of pork. The food seemed to melt in his mouth, causing the boy to smile. Hizashi, it's amazing. The blonde smiled, taking a bite of the food in front of him. Izuku kept eating, becoming full a few minutes later. Hizashi gathered the dishes, placing them into the sink to do later. Izuku rushed to the living room of the home and started to play with his toy computer. Shota had gotten him one when his eyes glimmered at the sight of a real laptop. Hizashi sat down on the couch, releasing the clip that held up his hair. What are you looking up, buddy? Izuku looked at the blonde. His imagination was the only thing on his mind. I was looking up to see what quirk I'm going to get. And what do the results say? Izuku looked at the screen that was just a picture of bright colors and shapes. It's a combination of yours and Daddy's, he giggled. I don't think it'll be like mine. It might be like your daddy or your mommy. Izuku's face turned a different color. He got up from sitting on the floor into the couch next to Hizashi. Why doesn't my mommy come visit? Hizashi cursed to himself. He opened a can of worms that was spilling rapidly. Well, he started. Your mommy had to go do some really important things far away. She trusted your daddy to take care of you entirely. He came out, lying at a point or two. Then why are you always here too? Your daddy asked if I could help him take care of his favorite person. He poked at the child. See this ring on my finger? He showed the boy his left hand. A wedding band wrapped around his ring finger symbolizing the love he and Shota shared. Izuku wrapped his small hands around Hizashi's, looking closely at the ring. This is proof of the promise we made to each other that we will take care of you together. Can I ask you something? What is it? Should I call you something different? Let me ask you this one. Why do you call me by my name? Because Daddy does. And what do I call your daddy? Shota. Izuku started to connect certain things. He had overheard a few conversations between the two men before about this. It clicked in his small mind. You want to be called Papa? Izuku asked him, as if he was asking permission. Only if you feel comfortable with that. Izuku smiled, hugging the man. I love you and Daddy. I can't wait to spend time with my parents as I grow up. Hizashi's eyes started to water. He would protect this child with his life. Shota didn't expect much when he went home. It wasn't often that he had day shifts. His specialty was at night. His dark clothes and hair let him blend into the shadows of the light. He was used of the moon sending down its glow into him. He took the key on his keychain and unlocked the door to his home. When he opened the door, his husband was swinging his child by the arms in circles. The two of them were laughing, each moment being full of joy. He shut the door, catching the attention of Hizashi. The blonde lowered Izuku to the ground, pushing a strand of hair behind his ear. I'm guessing the two of you were having a good day, he smiled, letting his son run to him. Shota bent to the ground, hugging his child as he did the same. Daddy, Papa made me an amazing lunch. He even let me play with his hair. Really now, he does cook. He stopped himself, realizing what Izuku said. Did he say what I think he said? He looked at Hizashi. He did. Shota picked up Izuku, walking to the blonde. He was speechless with the situation. Izuku calling him Papa was proof to him that he made the right decision to love another man. Izuku was Shota's world. He would choose him over any person no matter the relationship. I'm so proud of you, he told Hizashi. I promised to take care of him when we started our relationship. I will continue to keep that promise. I love you." He quickly kissed him. Izuku giggled at his parents' group hug. Shota and Hisashi laughed with the child, letting his little arms wrap around their necks. "I can't wait to live the rest of my life with you too," Hisashi smiled. 2 days. That's how long it was until Izuku turned 4 years old. Shota was excited yet nervous. He knew the commission took note of the children of heroes, some closer than others. Hisashi could feel the stress radiating off of Shota. Studies say that not all quirks appear on the 4th birthday of the child. He could be a late bloomer or he could. It's going to be on his birthday. That how I was as well as his mother. It'll show itself. Hisashi placed his head on Shota's shoulder. No matter what it is, we will still love him. Can I admit something to you? Of course. What is it? The commission has been trying to talk to me about the possibility of Izuku getting a quirk similar to mine. Hisashi removed his head from the shoulder and gave a confused look to him. What? The rumors of the commission choosing children to specialize in training them to become heroes. I think they are true. You think they are targeting him? I don't know. He pushing his hair back. Let's not think about that. It's our son's birthday. That's something to celebrate. I guess you're right, Shota breathed. Did you order his cake? I thought you did. The two men blinked slowly. Crap. They rushed to their feet, grabbing everything they needed to go to the store. Good thing Izuku was at daycare for the day. Chapter text. It all started with a sneeze. Izuku felt awful the day of his birthday. No, awful wasn't the word he would use. He felt weird. His body felt like it housed something that wasn't there before. Izuku crawled out of bed, taking his time to walk out his room and to the main room of the house. His parents were already getting things ready for the day of celebration. Shota was the first to notice the boy walk up. Happy birthday, Izuku, he smiled. Happy birthday, buddy. Thanks, he mumbled, rubbing his nose with his arm. Shota made his way to his son, bending down to his level. Are you okay, Izu? I don't feel good, he snuffled. Shota brought the back of his hand to Izuku's forehead. He doesn't feel warm, he spoke to himself. Does your tummy hurt? No, he spoke. Izuku felt the urge to sneeze suddenly. He let the sneeze-like feeling come out. However, it wasn't a sneeze. It felt like something else. Shota and Hisashi went wide-eyed witnessing what Izuku did. What? You glitched, Shota whispered to him. Like a computer. Yay. He sounded like we was trying to convince himself that's what he saw. Shota, babe, his quirk, Hisashi spoke up. I told you it would show up, he chuckled. This is my quirk. It seems like you are able to glitch like that girl from that movie about the arcade game we watched the other night. So I'm the princess of a Candy Land game and can race in a race car made of cookies. Shota looked over to Hisashi, who had the same exact look on his face. Your son, you explain it. You just got the Papa label, you do it. Your blood. Shota shot him a deadly gaze. After striking fear into his husband, he turned back to Izuku with soft eyes. Kinda like her. With practice you'll be able to control it and probably do more with it. Izuku got excited, glitching a little more. When he calmed down, Shota noticed lines on Izuku's face starting from his ear on one side. They looked like a grid of sorts that were glowing neon green. Must be a side effect of usage, he thought to himself. Well, the day isn't getting any younger and it is someone's birthday. Let's celebrate. Hisashi spoke loudly, changing the subject. I want cake. Not yet. Breakfast first, Shota spoke. Cake for breakfast. Izuku gave puppy eyes. No, you can have some for lunch. Okay. He shrugged his shoulders. Shota released a sigh once Izuku skipped past him. Glitching wasn't really a powerful quirk. But deep down there was a feeling that the glitch would just be the surface. The outside of a computer looked much simpler than what it truly looked like in the inside. Shota had a night shift the following night. He was happy of the fact that he was able to spend his son's birthday with the child. He sat on the roof, his yellow goggles covering his eyes. He was scanning over the streets of Japan, waiting for something to happen. He didn't worry about it too much. He was in a city that nothing really happened. It was going to be a long night of just watching. However, he was waiting for something to happen. It wasn't the villains that everyone hated. He was waiting for the villains that everyone loved. Eraser, what a beautiful night, he heard a female's voice speak from behind him. He turned his head to the voice. The woman was known for being one of the higher-ups in the commission. Her slick-back silver hair highlighted. She was standing there when the moon's light hit it just right. "Aki, what do you want?" he mumbled. With each step she took towards Shota, he felt his nerves get worse. He really didn't feel like dealing with the commission. She got to the point where the two of them were side by side, however, she never once looked at Shota. She just looked out into the city. "Your son's birthday was yesterday, was it not?" "It was," he spoke blankly, holding his tongue to not give them too much information. "I bet you and Present Mike gave him the best day he could ever have." "Stop dancing around the obvious things you want to ask," he put coldly. The woman turned her head, letting her dark, icy eyes look to his. A smirk grew on her face, but fangs lied behind the smile. "Leave it up to the underground heroes to speak their minds," she started. "Did the boy develop a quirk?" Shota stayed silent. "You know it is important for the boy's quirk to get assessed by a doctor so it can get labeled. Me and my husband will get to it. We wanted to celebrate our son's birth, not drag him to a doctor's office because of something that just appeared," he snapped at her slightly. "Might I ask what is it?" "You'll find out when you find out. Truthfully, I don't want it to be known by anyone. You know that doesn't work in this society. We must determine if he is a danger to himself and the people of the country. The only danger he purposes is to Katsuden. Kid loves that stuff with a passion." The lady let out a laugh. She actually found Shota's joke funny. She composed herself in a matter of seconds and went back to the serious person she had to be. "Remember Eraser, Yui don't know his quirk soon, the higher-ups will find out themselves. Trust me, you don't want that. Why can't they leave us alone? I know we are a small family with two pros, but we just want to live our private lives away from our work ones. It comes with the job. We are only doing this for the safety of your family. What if a villain group targets your son?" she said to manipulate him. Shota raised an eyebrow, seeing what was trying to be done. "My husband and I will teach him self-defense. However, he is still a little too young to handle that. His body needs to become stronger." "It's never too young to start," she let out. "Remember what I said, I'm just the messenger. They will find out what it is." The woman paused. Her dull eyes gained a little light in them as her expression changed. "You know what might happen if they get to him." With that she vanished into the wind, leaving Shota alone again. The higher-ups were no joke. They would send others to do their dirty work while they kept their hands clean. He knew the truth in the warning. Threats weren't threats. They were promises that were dangerous and deadly. They threatened you. More like she suggested we take him before the higher-ups get to him." Hazashi slumped into his chair, running his hand through his blonde hair. The sigh he let out showcased the stress that was overwhelming him. He literally just turned 4. They aren't this strict with normal people. "Hazashi, we aren't normal. We are pro-heroes. Our lives are anything but normal." Shota kneeled in front of him, resting his hands on his husband's thighs. "We have to protect Izuku from them. Bringing him in to get labeled is the safest thing. Guess I'll call the doctor's office." "I already did. We bring him in tomorrow morning." Hazashi gave his husband a glare. "You made me panic for no reason." "No, there is a reason to panic. The warning was enough of a reason." Izuku sat in the back seat, babbling some song he had heard while watching a cartoon. Hazashi kept glancing back, smiling, seeing the child be an actual child. "I'm happy he sees you as his papa," Shota spoke, keeping his eyes on the road. "Shota, I may not be blood related to him, but he is still my son. I love him no matter. I love the both of you." Shota smiled gently, pulling into the doctor's office. Izuku stopped singing. "Why are we here?" Shota parked the car and looked at him through the rear view mirror. "There are these people that want to know about your glitch. And because me and your papa fight bad guys, they want to keep you safe. You and papa are the best." Izuku smiled, glitching out of his car seat. Izu, buddy, did you just glitched out of your seat? Hazashi asked, looking at him. I did. Is it cool? I've been practicing my glitch all night. Hazashi saw the slightest of green on Izuku's face, but they weren't covering his entire face. Buddy, look out the window towards where your dad is sitting, Hazashi told him. Izuku nodded and did just that. Look at this. Shota turned around in his chair and looked at his son. Are those green grid lines? Could it be a side effect? I noticed them on his birthday. Daddy, Papa, let's go, Izuku whined, seeing the two adults just talk. Best we listen to him. Hazashi undid his seatbelt, opening the car door. Let your papa get you out, don't glitty see. Shota started, but Izuku already used his quirk, letting himself out of the car. This glitching thing is going to be the death of me. The atmosphere of the waiting room was unusual. On one end of the room, there was a family of two waiting to be called back, hoping their child's surgery was successful. On the other was a woman praying her son would come out alive after a life-threatening event. Hazashi held Shota's arm, noticing the tense air around the two others. I hope all is well with whoever they are waiting for, he whispered, watching Izuku play with random toys that was in a play box. I wasn't expecting to see the two of you here, a voice boomed that was familiar to the adults. Enji, what are you doing here? Shoto's quirk developed late, but it's the perfect blend of my and his mother's quirk. He sat down next to them. So our kid's quirk developed around the same time, Shota stated the obvious. As the adults went back and forth, Izuku was face to face with a child only a few months older than him. Hi, I'm Izuku, Shoto, the boy seemed to say in a whisper. Your hair is cool, it's like a peppermint. I like peppermints, but I like broccoli more. I've been told I look like a broccoli, Izuku started to ramble. What's your quirk? I'm assuming that's why you're here. I can glitch. I have my father's fire and my mother's ice quirks. That's cool. I didn't get my quirk from my dad, Papa, or mother. It just became its own thing. The two boys looked at their parents, who were having a conversation of their own. I wonder if they know each other. Who knows? The door of the waiting room opened, creating an echo of the door creaking. It caught the attention of everyone. The air stood still, waiting for the name they waited for to be called. Izuku Aizawa, the nurse called, sending the tension to calm down just slightly. Shota and Hazashi got up, wishing farewell to Enji. Bye Shoto. I hope we can have a play date soon. Izuku followed his father's, waving at his new friend. Shoto felt himself wave back, watching how the child was happy with his family. Father, I think I made a friend. Shoto looked at the man. The Aizawas are good people. Their son would be a great training partner to have. Shoto turned his attention away from the man, imagining a world where his quirk never appeared. To him, having no quirk was better than having the one he had. Do they work with you? They do. Now, we shouldn't be long. Quirk assessments are usually quick. Chapter text. So Izuku, I see that you just turned 4. That's exciting. The nurse wrote down Izuku's height and weight, making small talk as she did. I did. Daddy, Papa, and I went get ice cream after dinner. Shota chuckled at his son's excitement that beamed on his face. He truly didn't get his personality from him. What's your favorite kind of ice cream? Izuku thought about it for a second. I like mint, but not all the time. Chocolate is good, but sometimes I like to try the one that Daddy gets. Izuku looked over to Shota. He likes coffee ice cream like a crazy person, Hazashi poked fun. You're calling yourself a crazy person too, you know, Shota pointed out. You married this crazy person. Izuku, your daddy is being mean to me, Hazashi joked. Don't be mean to Papa. The group of adults chuckled at the quick interaction. The nurse smiled at them, seeing that they were just a happy family. Eventually they made it to a room where they could wait. Izuku, the doctor is going to come in and see what that quirk of yours can do. He will then be able to put a name to it and try to predict what other things you might be able to do when you're older. Izuku's eyes sparkled, excitement filling up to the brim. He will be here shortly. She bowed, closing the door behind her, leaving the family alone. Shota and Hizashi each sat in a chair that was in the room after they helped lift Izuku onto the bed-looking thing. Please know what I'm talking about. Everything seemed normal, but deep down, Hizashi felt as if something was off. He couldn't quite put a finger on it, but there was a piece of a puzzle that didn't belong. Babe, what's wrong? Shota asked, sensing the worry in Hizashi. I don't know. I just got uneasy for no reason. The two shrugged it off, not believing it was anything to truly worry about. The time ticked on by, moving slower with each passing second. It seemed like forever till the doctor came into the room, when truly it was only 5 minutes. The only thing was, the doctor wasn't alone. Another man, someone younger than himself, followed close behind with a clipboard and such in hand. Hello Aizawa family, I'm Dr. Soma. With me is Doctor in Training, Leviathan. I shall be watching over the procedures done today to study for my future career, he bowed. Also please call me Levi. Thank you Dr. Soma and of course Levi. Shota slightly bowed his head. Hizashi felt the uneasiness build up again. It wasn't the doctor causing it. He knew that. It was Levi. His name both full and shortened didn't seem to fit him. So Izuku, is it? Yep. The small boy smiled brightly. I'm going to have to run a few tests on you to know things about your quirk. My own quirk allows me to predict the growth of your power, he explained to him. What exactly are the tests? Shota asked. Blood sample, DNA sample, and him showing me what he can do already. Him using his quirk will be supervised and monitored for everyone's safety, the doctor replied smoothly. You mean I can glitch when I want to? Izuku heard clearly about him being able to use his quirk. Izuku not. It was too late. Before Shota could finish the sentence, Izuku had glitched to the floor, standing on his own 2 feet. Seems like he got control of that pretty quick, Hizashi mumbled. His eyes darted to Leviathan, who was writing things down on his clipboard. We shall be back in this room soon. You are welcome to wait here or go back into the waiting room, the doctor told them. We will wait in here. Thank you, Shota answered as the 2 men left with their son. Shota, that so-called doctor in training, did he seem off to you? A little, but we can't judge people that we just met. He really could be just learning the ropes. I hate when the hero side of me takes over and thinks the worse of people sometimes. It's the burden we both share. The doctor sent a side eye to the so-called doctor in training. In all his years of giving kids the gift of the knowledge of their quirk, he's never had to deal with someone studying his every move. No, not his. Izuku's. The doctor sat the boy in the chair, getting all the things he needed ready. For his job, a small sample of blood and DNA was needed. It was more for his quirk to work than anything else. Looking at both with a microscope, he could see the evolution of one's quirk. He didn't really know how it worked. He just knew it did. So Izuku, do you know what you want to be when you are all grown up? Leviathan spoke to the child at his level. I don't know. Daddy says that I'm free to be whatever I want. Daddy and Papa don't want me to become something because I'm forced to. Leviathan faked a smile, but Izuku didn't know the first part. You have amazing parents. He got back up to his normal height. The doctor got a finger prick set ready. He traded places with the other, giving Izuku a warning that it may hurt for a split second. Izuku winced, feeling something sharp quickly poke at him. The doctor quickly pressed Izuku's finger onto the plate that he needed. Collecting a DNA sample was simple. He would try to find a loose hair, but if needed he would turn to the next best thing, saliva. Okay buddy, me and Levi need to step out for a bit. We will be watching you, but we have to talk about grown-up things, he told the child. Okay, I'll wait here. The doctor smiled warmly, causing Izuku to mirror it. The doctor grabbed Leviathan by the wrist, catching him off guard. The door shut behind them, causing both of them to drop the act they had on. Tell me the truth, why are you here? I know you aren't who you say you are. I would have been told if there was a student joining me today, he crossed his arms. Leviathan turned cold, having a stern look on his face. I'm from the Hero Commission. The higher-ups like to be involved when pro-heroes' children are being labeled, and with you being the main doctor they all come to, we are set to do this. Why the pros' children? What's so special about them? None of your concern. The information we seek is classified. I am meant to be seen, not heard. For the safety of my patients, I require you to tell me what you want with them. I don't like when people think they can do things just because they can. Look, my job is to report what I find about these kids back to the commission. I don't know that they do with the information. You and we are just the messengers to a larger boss, he spoke with a small lie piled in. The doctor let out a sigh. If I try to pry more, we are just going to end up going in circles, aren't we? We are. The doctor rolled his eyes, placing a hand on the doorknob about to turn it. If you touch any of the kids that I have to see today, I will be reporting you to the hospital as well as the Hero Commission. My patients come first, not you, and certainly not my job. I understand completely. The door was opened, with the masks flying back onto the both of them. Okay buddy, I saw that you can teleport yourself short distances. Can you do that from where you are standing to the table right there? He pointed at the table that stood in the door about 4 meters away, 10-13 feet. I tried. Izuku gave a quick nod and did as he was asked in an instant. He landed straight on his feet. The doctor made a note of the area around the child as he teleported across the room. It seemed like he was passing through the matrix of a computer. My daddy and papa mentioned that it was called glitching, so that's what I call it, Izuku spoke up. Your parents were right to call it that. He then turned his attention to Leviathan. Please bring Izuku back to his parents. I need to look over the samples. You can stay with them or come back. I don't know what you want to do. Of course sir. He gave a slight bow. He then reached his hand to guide Izuku, but the child wanted to try something. I'll glitch back to the room. Izuku got excited that he was being able to use his quirk. In an instant, the child used his quirk and vanished from the room. Leviathan was in a state of awe. If he had this kind of control with only having the power for a few days, then what were the possibilities whenever it would evolve? Izuku was powerful. He was probably, no, definitely more powerful than the 11-year-old that boy was deemed the golden boy. Leviathan pulled out his phone, sending a quick text to the higher-ups. What are you doing? The doctor asked, seeing the devilish smile grow. My job. Now, I'll go back to the room and see if he made it there. Fine. Izuku didn't land as smoothly when he glitched back into the room where his parents were. He slipped on the floor and ended up falling on his rear. Ouch! He winced, feeling the sharp sting. Shota and Hisashi alike jumped at the sudden appearance of their son. Hell, they were expecting anyone to suddenly appear out of thin air. Buddy, are you okay? Hisashi got up, checking in the child. I glitched back here from the other room. Izuku smiled, trying to ignore the pain he was in. Did the doctor tell you to do that? Shota raised an eyebrow. The smile dropped, with Izuku shaking his head. Levi was supposed to bring me back. Using your quirk like that is very dangerous. You need to use it with breaks. Those lines on your face are growing and becoming a brighter green, Shota scolded him. You need to take a time out on your quirk. No more glitching today. But daddy. No Izuku, your dad is right. We just want what's best for you. Hisashi paused one of the boy's curls behind his ear, showing the pale, freckled skin. But I like glitching, Izuku pouted, crossing his arms. Sometimes we need to take breaks, even on the things we enjoy. You'll get tired of using it and then you won't see how awesome your quirk is. Izuku gave a small nod and let Hisashi pick him up to sit on his lap back in the chair he was in. A few moments more, Leviathan opened the door. His eyes went straight to Izuku. His mouth slightly separated as if he was in shock. Did he glitch straight here? He wanted to clarify his answer. He did, but didn't have a smooth landing. I fell on my butt. Izuku blurted, laughing at himself. Your son is quite a ball of power, he let slip past his lips. It's his own power, nothing from me or his birth mother, so I hope the doctor will be able to tell us more about it. Shota started to have an adult conversation with Leviathan. Hisashi distracted Izuku, keeping his mind off of the waiting, but while he was doing that, he was studying Leviathan. He still felt like something was off with him. I wasn't really able to read anything about Izuku's file before I got placed here. What are some things he likes? Leviathan asked, leaning against the wall. Well, he loves vegetables for some odd reason. The child will devour vegetables. He also loves crisp pork over rice. Shota went straight into talking about Izuku's favorite food. He's going to become big and strong, all those vegetables. He let out a chuckle. What kind of doctor are you studying to become? Hazashi jumped into the conversation. Well, my parents wanted me to become a dentist, but I enjoy working with kids. I also enjoy the phycological field. Today I got asked to watch Dr. Soma work, he explained. Hazashi listened to how the young adult spoke. He said a few different fields of study, but he didn't name a single one. He danced around the answer. If you don't mind me asking, what is your quirk? Hazashi asked. Shapeshifting. I can change my appetence to match anyone that I have seen, he explained with little detail. The three adults continued with a conversation talking about random things until the doctor came back in about 20 minutes later. Sorry for the wait, Mr. and Mr. Aizawa, the doctor apologized. No apology needed. Your job is important and has its own stress, Shota spoke for them. Levi kept us company, Hazashi added, still feeling the uneasiness from him. Well, I am pleased to tell you that based off the properties of my own quirk I was able to see how your son's quirk will grow. The glitching is not the only thing he will be capable of, he started. Shota, Hazashi, and Levi's eyes went wide. Izuku wasn't really paying attention, daydreaming about him glitching places. He will be able to create grids and field-like diagrams that he will be able to manipulate to his wish. My guess is that they will be very strong, if not unbreakable. My lord, Shota let out, hearing the kind of power his child had. Hazashi noticed that he wasn't finished talking, however. There's more, isn't there? The doctor gave a nod. There was one more thing that my quirk showed me, but it's something more dangerous to others. What is it? Leviathan asked for the family. He will be able to shoot what I would call viruses, based on the other aspects, at people. However, I do not know what would happen to said people, he finished. That was all I can't read from my analysis. More could happen, but I have shared all I know. Shota and Hazashi were in shock. Their son would grow into a powerful person. He would make an incredible hero if Izuku chose it. But they still believed in what they did before. They wanted Izuku to choose the life he had. If he wanted to become a school teacher, then they would support him. Leviathan's phone broke the silence. All the attention went to him as he pulled out his phone. The emotion that came over his face was unreadable. I have to step out for a moment. It was great to meet you, Mr. and Mr. Aizawa. You too, Izuku, he spoke before escaping the room. The doctor rolled his eyes slightly, ignoring the young adult's exit. I find it best to label his quirk database, the doctor told them. Thank you, doctor, Shota spoke, letting out a breath. He couldn't believe he had a son that would grow into such a power. On the outside of the door, just a little ways past the room the family was in, Leviathan had answered the phone call he was receiving. Leviathan speaking. How was the first child? The voice on the other end asked. His power control is unbelievable for only having it a few days, he put shortly. And what of the doctor's quirk say? Powerful. The creation of data fields, turning them into physical structures. I'm not sure how to put it, but the doctor also noted something about it that was harmful to others. Send over the boy's file once it is completed. Depending on what Endeavor's son is like, this kid seems like someone to keep an eye on. He would be perfect for the program. The other side of the line was silent for a moment. Saying that means that you see him as an extremely powerful individual. You know I take my job seriously. I don't say things with no reason. Izuku Aizawa then Izuku Aizawa will be the perfect soldier for the commission. Chapter text. It had been a few weeks since the doctor's appointment. Shota and Hazashi's days were packed with work as school teachers in the morning and hero work at night. Izuku was a very independent child at his young age, but Hazashi made sure that he would go pick him up from kindergarten and bring him home. That was a condition that he had with Ua, which they agreed to. Izuku was the child of two of their best teachers. Every day without fail, Hazashi would drive to the school and take him home, making sure there was food for him to eat. Most of the time he would make a sandwich for the child for dinner if he had to go back to the high school for any reason. If both him and Shota had a night shift, then they would ask one of their trusted students to watch their son. That was the family's normal. It would be pretty simple to tell if something was thrown off of their daily routine. However, from the shadows, someone was watching their every move. They knew exactly where Hisashi would park to pick up his son. They even knew what Hisashi would tell Izuku once they saw each other. This person studied their normal and practiced it. He would have to replicate it for the mission to run smoothly. Any flaws in a society would have fallen apart. Leviathan deemed Izuku to be the better of the two children that he observed. Yes, the young Todoroki boy had a great quirk, but Izuku had something different. He had the raw talent for handling his quirk. You see, the Hero Commission wasn't just the people who created the rules and safety guidelines for the use of quirks in the general public. That was just the side they would show everyone, including most pro-heroes. However, the brighter something shines, the darker the shadow. The commission had a secret section. They would find children they seemed fit and train them, molding them into the hero they wanted. The methods that were used were not the most humane. They didn't care whose blood was spilt. They would let the children die to be able to produce the hero they wanted. No one knew about the program actually existing. The only ones who knew were the ones who ran the program and the ones who were in it. It had been years since the commission produced someone who was the idol hero in their eyes. But there was a young 11-year-old that was becoming the golden boy of the commission. Leviathan thought that Izuku would be able to outdo the golden boy. He would become the emerald. A shapeshifter's job was never easy. His quirk had limits, but he knew his job and he knew his target. The plan would take action in a month's time. Inko Midoriya was a serious woman. She didn't like when things would stray from her plan. Her curly green hair mirrored her eyes, but her eyes were clouded with the darkness she housed. Yes, she has curly hair in this O. She had worked hard for her position within the Hero Commission. She wasn't afraid to crush others to get to what she wanted. Inko, I got all the things you requested in order. If things go wrong with your plan. Leviathan, sweetie, I know Shota Aizawa. He won't let us take his son. The small child is his pride and joy, she cut of the man, pining back her hair. Sorry Inko, he apologized, giving a small bow. May I ask you a question? You just did, she smirked, attempting to joke with him. She saw his face pale in return. Go ahead, I was only joking. You said you know Aizawa. How, is it though the commission? Not exactly, she fixed her blouse. Leviathan opened the car door that she was heading towards. After all, she was his boss. Then what is it? Let's just say that I know Shota better than almost everyone. The rest of the day will be private study. Your test is tomorrow. Shota slouched in his chair. He couldn't wait for he and Hisashi's anniversary. Hisashi was horrible with secrets and had told Izuku that he was getting Shota a yellow sleeping bag that way he could sleep anywhere. Izuku then told his father the secret. Yuki, you're in charge. I'm going to see my husband. Shota spoke to the student, leaving his classroom. His students respected him. Shota would not let up on them just because something was hard. Life was hard. The easy way of life doesn't exist. He'd rather have them learn in a classroom than when they go out into the real world with no constant support. He shoved his hands into his pocket, letting out a small yawn. Izuku had a nightmare that caused both him and Hisashi to stay up with him. He needed more coffee, but Hisashi would kill him if he had another cup. He had lost count of how many he had already. The static of the PA system echoed through the empty halls. The voice of the mouse, cat, creature thing came on the system. Shota Aizawa, please come to my office. I repeat, Shota Aizawa, please come to my office, the voice spoke twice. Shota rolled his eyes, turning around to head towards the office. It felt like old times saying that sentence, the voice mumbled before the system shut off. Shota wanted to facepalm himself. No matter how old he would get, he would forever be part of the trio that would cause trouble. It took a few minutes, but eventually he got to the office, opening the door. Was saying that last sentence really necessary? Shota spoke without seeing the other person in the room. Shota, This here is Inko. He noticed the familiar green hair. You seem to know each other already, the principal chuckled. Me and Shota go back, Mr. Nezu. We got close once we starting working in the hero world, she put on a smile. Nezu, why is she here? Actually, I was thinking we can talk privately. She turned her head to Nezu for a moment, if you don't mind. Of course, I'll be right outside. Take all the time you need. The mouse thing hopped down from his seat and walked out the room, closing the door behind him. When the door shut, Inko's smile left too. What do you want? Shota crossed his arms. Nice to see you too, Shota. Let's see, it's been how many years since we last saw each other? 4 years, he said right away, not even batting an eye. That long already, she gasped, but Shota knew she was putting on an act. Cut to the chase. You said you'd never see us again once you left. Shota, you know that I work in the headquarters of the Hero Commission and that I am part of the inner circle. I can't really talk about the specifics of my job. And I don't care. Inko rolled her eyes, standing up. I am the current director of a special program within the commission that trains the next generation to become the most skilled heroes. They learn under our guidance everything they need to know about the hero work field. Shota raised an eyebrow. You said next generation. How old are these people? They range in all ages, but the current group that is showing extreme promise are the 11-year-olds. Shota's face gave off a sickening emotion. How can you tell if they are just 11? I unfortunately cannot share their training schedules. Moving on, we have a network of people who look into the children of today and see if they are qualified for our program. We read over hundreds of files and we believe Izuku to be a perfect pick. Absolutely not. Inko knew that was coming. Shota, think about it. Izuku could become a hero just like you and me. No, you were never a hero. You were just there to control others. Shota, I had to get into the commission somehow. You hate kids. Yet I had one. Shota let out a sigh. The person standing in front of him was not just someone from the commission, but the mother of his child. I won't make choices for Izuku that will affect a major part of his future. What if he doesn't want to be a hero? What kid doesn't dream to become a hero? You gave all rights to me when you left us. Izuku's well-being does not concern you. It's for me and my husband. I heard that you married a man. Pro-hero present Mike, right? Leave my family out of the commission's greedy hands. He raised his voice. Careful, Shota. You do remember that you work for these people still. Shota didn't care. He spoke the truth. That's what he wanted. Izuku is not doing a program where he is forced to become something that he doesn't want to become, he reinstated. That was all I needed. She walked past him, placing a hand on the door. She paused before turning the knob. What does he know about me? Nothing. His mother asked if I could take care of him while she was away. I will not make his mother a bad guy in his eyes. Thank you. She spoke, turning the handle. She got all the information she could ever want out of that man without even trying for it. She knew what the answer was going to be when they picked Izuku to become part of the program. The thing was with the commission, they got what they want. It wasn't often that they wouldn't get what they desired. The game was set. The first moves were already completed. Inko knew the next moves for the easy and cutthroat win. Dash. Daddy. Izuku ran up to his father, hugging his legs. Hello, Izu. He smirked, letting his hand fall to his son's green curls. Papa said you got called to the principal's office. He laughed, hearing Hizashi close the door and lock it. I had flashbacks of when Nezu called us whenever we got into trouble. Hizashi held back his own laughter. It wasn't really him who wanted to talk to me. He bent down, picking up Izuku, using his hip to hold up his son. Who was it? Hizashi questioned, wanting to start on dinner. Inko. Hizashi went wide-eyed. Izuku didn't know his mother's name. What did she want? A hero program apparently is looking into young people that we both know. His eyes quickly flashed towards Izuku, hoping his husband would catch the hint. I'm hoping you told them our viewpoint on the path young people choose for themselves, he replied, understanding what Shota was trying to say. And why wouldn't I? Parents shouldn't force their children to become something, right, Izuku? Shota brought the child into the conversation. Right, he smiled. I'll go start dinner. Why don't you two stinky people go wash up? Hizashi pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm not stinky. I barely stayed in the sun today at daycare. Izuku tried to defend himself. Nope. Definitely stinky, Hizashi laughed. Let's go wash up. That way Papa could be the stinky one, Shota whispered. Izuku's face lit up, nodding rapidly. Hizashi saw the change in emotions right away. What did you tell our son? He questioned. That once we are clean then you'll be the stinky one, he put blankly. Go wash up before I throw a spoon at the two of you. The small family enjoyed these small moments. Sure, they would be silly, random moments, but it was the connection they shared. Love comes in all forms of ways. A family like the three of them is one form. However, there were cracks in the cement that held this family together. The weeds and vines would break through the cracks, breaking them apart. Eventually, these moments would mean nothing. A changed mindset would break the moments they spent together. It's so sad that even people closely related by blood can betray each other. Anonymous. Chapter text. It had been a few weeks since Inko spoke with Shota. In those weeks, the commission had been quiet. Too quiet for Shota's liking. He was causing him stress and anxiety with each passing day. Hizashi could see it, but they both didn't realize it was that bad until Izuku picked up on it. The three of them were sitting around the dinner table trying to enjoy a breakfast before starting their day. Daddy, what's wrong? His small voice asked his father. What do you mean, Izu? I'm fine, Shota put on a fake smile. Izuku glanced over to Hizashi. He noticed the two adults had tired eyes, having the skin right below them darker than they once were before. Papa, why is Daddy lying? I thought lying was bad. Hizashi gave a quick look to Shota, who was still trying to figure out why the commission was like they are. Lying is bad, but your daddy is just tired. He needs some sleep and relaxation, he tried to tell the boy. Izuku pouted. He didn't like the answer he was given. Is it something I did? That question alone broke Shota's trance. His mind was warped with what Inko was planning that he forgot that he was the one with their child. Not her. He gained custody over him. Izuku cared and loved him and Hizashi, not her. He got up from his seat and immediately went to Izuku's side, crouching to his height in the chair. I'm so sorry, Izu. You did nothing wrong, I promise. You were perfect as perfect can be. I'm just scared, he spoke truth to the boy. Why are you scared? Did you have a bad dream? You can borrow one of my stuffies if you need to, the child offered. Shota let out a chuckle, smiling gently. I did have a bad dream. It was scary too. You were lost and couldn't get back to me and Papa, he told him. That is a bad dream. I will never leave you and Papa. I'll make sure it doesn't happen, he proclaimed. Shota touched his forehead to his, letting out a relived sigh. Thank you, Izuku. You have no clue how much you just helped, he smiled, planting a small kiss on his son's forehead. Hizashi looked down at his watch, noticing the time. Well, I have to get someone to daycare before we are all late. He wiped his face with a napkin, cleaning off his area of the table. The two adults cleaned the areas as Izuku glitched himself out of his seat and grabbing his backpack. When everyone was ready to walk out the door, Hizashi pressed a quick kiss on his husband's lips. I'll meet you in the lounge, the blonde told him. Have a good day, Izuku. I'll see you when we all come home, he waved at his child, watching Hizashi and Izuku walk out the door. He smiled, letting out a breath. He was being nervous for no reason. He declined the request for the commission to let Izuku do the program. They wouldn't go against the law just for that. Deep down, he felt that stress. Inko was a demanding woman. She would get what she wanted. No matter what. 7 a.m. That's when Izuku started daycare. A few minutes before he was hugging his papa goodbye, knowing he would see him again in a few hours. It was like clockwork, even though he didn't know how a clock worked. There were a handful of kids his age who attended the daycare. The teachers would teach them basics like the alphabet and simple numbers. They wanted the kids to be prepared for starting actual school. Izuku was excited to start actual school. He overheard his parents trying to decide if they wanted to send him to public schooling or just homeschool him. He didn't know that homeschooling meant him going to UA with them and doing schoolwork there. There were many things to consider, but Izuku didn't care. He was going to start learning. He loved to learn. Daycare was mostly playtime with some learning mixed into it. There was also nap time, which he certainly enjoyed. During playtime he would ask to play on the computer. He didn't mind whatever game he was playing. He just felt a connection with the technology. The teachers knew what his quirk was and they just guessed it was just a connection with the two. Lunch soon came and went, which led into nap time. Izuku loved nap time because right when he woke up, his papa would be waiting for him. It happened every time without fail. When his eyes fluttered open, the teachers were already telling him his papa was there to pick him up. Izuku smiled, rubbing his tired eyes. He put away the mat he slept on, putting it back into his cubby. The teacher grabbed his small backpack and helped him put it on. The teacher walked him to where his papa would be. Nothing seemed different than the day before. "Hey buddy, how was your day today?" Hazashi smiled, welcoming his child. "It was fun. I got to play on the computer again." Izuku is getting really good at numbers and practically mastered the alphabet. He is way ahead of his peers. You and Shota must be very proud of him, the teacher informed the adult. "We couldn't be any prouder." He then turned his attention to Izuku. "Are you ready to go, buddy?" "Yay, thank you." He bowed, giving respect to the teacher with her bowing in return. He and Izuku walked to the parking lot hand in hand. Izuku was searching for the car that he rode in every single day, but it was nowhere in sight. Instead, Hazashi guided them to a large black van. "Papa, this isn't your car," he spoke, giving a confused look to him. "It's a company car, Izuku. Now let's get you in." He seemed rushed on his words. The side door opened, and Izuku was quickly strapped into a car seat. The door shut, leaving everything where he was pitch black. Izuku was scared if the unknown of the situation. Usually his papa would tell him what was going on. "Papa, I'm scared." Just like Daddy was today. His papa's voice wasn't the one that replied to him. "Don't worry, bud, you'll be at the location soon." "My papa doesn't sound like that." "Where is my papa?" Izuku raised his voice, letting it become high-pitched. There was no response. The car started moving. Izuku was still in the dark. Fear clouded his eyes. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know where his papa was. "I want my papa." "Your papa isn't here." Izuku's breathing was becoming rapid. If he wasn't there, then where was he? He put him in the van. He had to be there too. He tried to push himself out of the seat. When that didn't work, he tried to glitch out. His glitch didn't work. "Where's my glitch?" Silence. "I'm scared. I want my papa." Izuku's screams were the only thing the men heard from the front seat. The fact was that this van was made for collecting others, disabling quirks to those in the back seats. The front seat sat the driver and the person who looked like Hazashi. "I would drop the disguise now. You may have changed your voice back, but it's weird to see you look like him still," the driver commented about the passenger. "I see why Hazashi has long hair. The man does have style." The face started to morph back to the original shape of the person. "I think I might go blonde." "In your dreams. You know the rules are strict. I'm the one who gets all these kids. They need me." "Correction. They need your quirk. It's hard to find a shapeshifter like you." The passenger was back to his original look, the blonde hair turned dark and short. The hazel eyes changed to the man's original, dark brown. "Leviathan, you know the kid may recognize you. So what if he does? The sooner he learns the world is unfair and twisted, the better it will be." Dash. Stupid traffic stop. "I can't believe I'm late," Hazashi mumbled to himself, definitely going over the speed limit to go pick up Izuku. "Don't speed, kids, adults, human beings." Hazashi quickly parked his car in a random spot, rushing to inside the building. His hair was frizzed, added with him being out of breath. The front desk lady gave him a concerned look. "Mr. Aizawa, are you okay?" she asked, thinking he came back because Izuku had forgotten something. "Yay, I'm just late and I know Izuku is probably worried," and he spoke in between breaths. "What do you mean? You picked him up at normal time?" She was confused at his statement. "What do you mean?" There was a traffic stop on my drive here. Mr. Aizawa, you came here about 30 minutes ago and picked up Izuku. Hazashi was giving the lady a confused look. Everything was like usual except your car. I'm guessing you had something at UA, so you took a school vehicle. What did it look like? The lady pulled up the security video from the time frame. She gave him a look for him to come behind the desk to see the screen. Hazashi's eyes scanned the screen. The imposter led his son to a black van. He could see that Izuku was confused. There was no sound to the video, but he knew that UA didn't own such a vehicle. The commission did. The commission always used black vans for everything. It was practically their trademark. What he couldn't figure out was who was the man who looked like him. Based on how the workers of the daycare seem, he sounded like him as well. Levi, he whispered. He was a shapeshifter. His story didn't add up together while they all spoke to each other. What was that? The lady asked, trying to make sense on the situation herself. I think I know who did this. He turned to anger and went to leave the building. Should I call the police? Don't. They won't do a thing. He left the poor lady alone with her thoughts, confused on why he would say such a thing. Hazashi rushed back into his car and went straight home where his husband was waiting. The panic and anger were overwhelming him. His hands were clutched on the starting wheel so tight, his knuckles were white as a ghost. They took him, was the first thing that echoed out his mouth, slamming the door. Shota stopped in his steps, giving a surprised look. The commission, they took Izuku. They took our son. Inko. Shota tightened his hand into a fist. She planned this. Shota, how are we supposed to get him back? He worried for Izuku's safety. Let me talk to Inko. I'll try with that. Shota, I love you, but that woman is insane. You know that. Shota sucked his teeth knowing Hazashi was right. She's not going to give him up without a fight. Then we will just have to fight with everything we got. There's only one problem. What is it? Everyone thinks the commission is great and good. No one thinks there is a dark side to it. We have to try show. And we will. We will get our son back. They were both determined to get their son back. Their eyes spoke it clear as day, just as Izuku's showed the fear that overcame him. Eyes were the windows to the soul. The family believed in this. But eyes can change, just like people. Others would come into their lives and change it bit by bit for better and for worse. The family would meet again, but they would be meeting the eyes of a stranger. Chapter text. Izuku didn't get the chance to look around when he was dragged out the van. He was small enough to easily toss into a room. At first he thought there was nothing in it. He brushed himself off, before taking another look around. There was 2 beds, one on each side of the room. There were no windows, but a light that lit up the entire room. There was nothing fancy about the room. The gray walls were bare and only 2 doors sat on each wall. He walked to the one that was on the same side of one of the beds and pushed it open. It was a bathroom. It had a shower, sink, mirror and toilet. Nothing special about it. He went to the other door, hoping he could just simply open it. He couldn't. He reached for the door handle, but when he tried to twist it, it didn't even budge. It was locked from the outside. Izuku was confused. Why was he here? Where was he? The one thing he knew was that he was still feeling the effects from the van. His glitch wouldn't activate, no how much he tried. Papa, Daddy, he screamed hoping somehow, they would be able to hear him. When not a sound responded back to his plea, he felt tears fill his eyes. He wanted to understand what was happening, but he needed his parents. He didn't know what was going on. He needed them. He climbed into the bed on the same wall as the bathroom, curling himself into a ball. He rested his forehead on his knees as his cries echoed in the room. I want my daddy and papa. Thank you Leviathan for a successful delivery. I'm sure the traffic jam gave you a little more time. Inko got the last few things ready for the welcoming ceremony that was going to happen at dinner. There were no issues, but I'm sure the boy has questions. He seems like the one who wants to know what's going on around him. He recalled hearing Izuku ask nonstop after he changed back into his normal look. Don't worry about that, I'll give him answers. Besides, the answers we give him are just steps in creating the mold. She grinned, looking down at a dog tag necklace. Part of her job requires her to go through the recruits for this program of hers and pick out a hero name. This was the name they would go by the entire time within the commission. Their real name would never be known by others. Ms. Inko, what is it? I do believe that this is my favorite one. I have hope that he will be just like Hawks, the next generation's golden boy. Hawks is already at an advanced level for his age. I overhead his undercover skills are through the charts. Leviathan talked about the 11-year-old boy who was becoming the perfect model for the commission. Well, I want this one to surpass Hawks. I believe he can. She smirked, closing the case the tag was going to be presented in. If you don't mind me asking, why do you believe such a thing? The new Rikets haven't started a bit of training. Inko smirked, standing directly in front of Leviathan. He was taller than her, but it seemed like she was the one looking down on him. It was something only she could do. I just so happen to know the blood of that one quite well. Izuku wished he was able to tell how long time had passed. There was no clock to help him even try to figure it out. He may not have known how they worked, but he could read numbers and try to figure it out. All he knew was that it had been a while since he was thrown into this room. He was still curled up onto the bed. He noticed that it wasn't as comfortable as the one he was used to. The sheets weren't soft to the touch. He wished he had one of his stuffies to hold on to. He wanted something from home if he was going to be stuck in that room. Without warning, the door swung open. He jumped at the sound of the metal door slamming against the wall. Let's go. The man in all black yelled at him. Izuku hurried to his feet, getting out the bed and walked towards the man. Shut up, kid. He raised his voice. Izuku immediately bit his lip and put his eyes to the floor. It's meal time. I will escort you to the cafeteria and then the welcoming ceremony will take place, the man told Izuku, treating him as if he was not a child. Izuku followed the man, making sure to not get too far behind him. There were a few others similar to how he was heading to the same location. Izuku heard the silent cries of the others his age. Fear was overwhelming. Izuku noticed the man stopped in front of him. He did the same, looking up at him. The man turned and looked at the boy. After the ceremony, you will be escorted back to your room. This won't happen every time, so make sure you memorize the hallways. Izuku nodded, assuming it was the safest option. Thank you, he mumbled. Don't thank me, I'm not deserving of it. The man walked away, leaving Izuku. He looked around to the other kids that were left where he was. There wasn't a lot of them. Izuku only counted to 8, not counting himself. The doors opened, welcoming the children inside the room. More men and women dressed in black guided them to tables where plates of food were ready for each of them. Izuku could sense that something was off. This wasn't the normal for this place. A lady with curly green hair revealed herself to the children, smirking slightly. Izuku made eye contact with her. He swore that her smirk grew. He felt a chill overcome him with the action. Welcome everyone. I am Ms. Inko. I represent the Hero Commission in this program. Each one of you were handpicked in hopes that we can shape you into the perfect hero, the woman spoke in a calm and soft voice. Izuku raised an eyebrow. He may not have understood everything that his parents would tell him, but he knew that they didn't want to force him to become anything. I'll continue to tell you more about the program very soon, she paused. You all must be very hungry. Go ahead and eat up, she encouraged. Izuku looked down at his plate. There was a scoop of vegetables, rice, and as the meat of the dish, pork. Izuku looked back at the woman. His eyes met hers. He didn't want to stare, so he quickly put his focus back to the food. He put his hand together, giving thanks for the food before he grabbed the training chopsticks and ate. From afar, Inko just looked at Izuku. It was the first time she had seen him since his birth. She didn't imagine that he would look so much like her. Next to her was a few of the people who worked directly with her. Leviathan was next to her, with short blonde hair and a different face shape. He followed her eyes to Izuku. They are all scared, she spoke in a whisper. They are in a new place. Most of them come from broken families. They only one who is not as the green. Izuku, she spoke his name. Ms. Inko, Why did you want us to get him here? Usually when we pick a child of a hero, we give the parents a choice, Leviathan asked her. I did. I got an answer from his father. I also got an answer from his mother. His mother. Leviathan, I have my own resources, she spoke as if she was giving him a warning not to dig deeper into the topic. We did as you requested and gave him his own room. Granted, there are 2 beds, but... Thank you. That will be fine. Go grab the older ones. They will be the ones to guide them back and answer questions. Also, tell the older ones that if the littles ask questions after the fact they will be punished, she commanded Leviathan. He bowed his head, ushering to do what he was told. Inko's gaze went back to Izuku. She tried to pick out the details of what he had in common with her versus Shota. Izuku had a softer curl pattern than her, but the color was a combination of the two. She was impressed that the black of his hair was mostly the roots while everything else was green. She never wanted children. She met Shota through the commission when she started looking into the underground heroes. Through a series of events and time, she found out she was pregnant. Once she found out, her and Shota turned on one another. Fights broke out between the two of them. When Izuku was born, only Shota went home with a child. The murmurs of the young ones started to fill the silent cafeteria. When it came to the new recruits, they always had their meal time after the heroes in training. They never made a mess anyway. The doors opened up and Leviathan in his other form led the top students behind Inko. Each one of them had a box. Okay littles, Inko spoke loudly, getting everyone's attention. Inko smiled, seeing the fear and confusion on most their faces. Behind me are our top students. They were all in your shoes before. They will be your older sibling, sort of say. However, I do have to warn you littles about something. The students behind her knew what was coming. It would be the moment they lose their individuality. They would no longer be a person. The 4-year-olds would become heroes training, a title that no one should have that young. Our heroes in training are only referred to as their hero name. It helps remind us of the hero we strive to be. Now, I will now call your given name one last time before you are given your hero name by one of our top students. One by one, the names of the people around Izuku were called. To his luck, he was the final one sitting there. Hawks, I would like to speak to the two of you, but then I will give you two the one-on-one time, she spoke low enough for only the 11-year-old to hear. Yes ma'am. Izuku Aizawa, welcome to the Hero Commission, she spoke with a smile. Izuku stood up and slowly walked up to her and the boy with bright red wings. Before I send you two away, I can tell this little has some burning questions, her voice has changed. Inko could see the puzzling look on his face. It was just like hers. My daddy and papa, they told me that I could pick what I wanted to be. Why am I here? Hawks felt as if she was leading Izuku into a trap. He knew that this was the only time the littles could ask. Your daddy and I had a conversation. He thought this program would be best for you. I don't believe you, Izuku put plainly. If he truly thought that, then he would tell me that I can be whatever I want. Inko was taken aback. Izuku was more aware than she thought. Hawks' eyes went back and forth, but his expression didn't change. He would never challenge the head of the program. Okay then, I admit, I lied, she spoke. But this is the truth. Your parents allowed us to bring you to this place without stopping us. Like it or not, you are here. Now, Hawks will continue with the rest, she gazed over to the tween. You know what to do. Hawks gave a swift nod, making eye contact with Izuku. Let's go, his voice spoke. The two of them walked out the cafeteria and into the hall, leaving the higher-ups. Do you remember how to get to your room from here? Hawks asked. No. Pay attention. The quicker you learn the better. Izuku didn't want to memorize the building. He wanted to go home to his parents, but Inko said they didn't stop them from taking him. His papa put him in the car seat. He practically gave him to them. Before he knew it, they made it to his room. They showed us your room numbers before we were paired with the littles. He opened the door. Izuku made sure to look at the numbers on his door before heading inside. Hawks closed the door behind the both of them. Izuku noticed he relaxed slightly when the door shut. Look kid, I don't know why the chairman has an interest in you, but that's not my business. What is this place? Welcome to hell. Chapter text. Hell. It's not a good place. The blonde let out a breath, letting his bright red wings stretch out slightly. Whatever is said in these walls will stay in here. I don't need a little getting me in trouble. Why do you keep calling me a little? I have a name, Izuku spoke with a little sass. Because your given name doesn't exist. That's what Ms. Inko said in the cafeteria. Instead we are given these tags that say our hero name that they picked. Hawks tossed the box to the child. Izuku caught it and opened it. A dog tag on a chain that matched Hawks's one was in it. Izuku pulled it out and looked at the wording presented on it. Glitch, he read out loud. I'm guessing you have some kind of techno quirk. I guess. Izuku wondered if the effects of the van wore off. It had been a good while since then. He closed his eyes for a quick second, activating his quirk in an instant, glitching to his bed. Hawks's expression changed from serious to awe. Wow, he let slip past his lips. I didn't know my glitch was special. How long did it take you to master it? A few days. Hawks could make his own guesses about why he was picked, but the real reason was only known by Inko. She's the one who gets final say-so. I'm going to lay it out for you. You will train for most of your day, getting a few rest days a month. They do provide an education along with training. No one wants a stupid hero coming out of the commission, he warned Izuku in a way. Why are you less tense than earlier? Those people are. You break any of the rules or don't do as they say and you get punished. What do you mean punished? It depends. At first they aren't horrible, but the more they learn about your flaws, the more harsh they become. Izuku noticed how the bird boy in front of him tensed up in front of him. What's the worst they have done to you? Electricity. It hurts more than anything I've ever experienced. How old are you? 11. Izuku was speaking to someone not even 10 years older than him, but somehow he felt as if they were talking at the same level. Going back to what I'm supposed to tell you, the better you do in the trainings and your skills, they will reward you. They will give you stuff like a clock or a rug. Basically stuff for your dorm. I don't like it. Izuku looked around to the plain room. You'll learn to love it. It's your safe place. There are no cameras, but the people that slam your door open don't knock. It's safety, but not privacy. Your dorm mate and you usually make up codes and such. I don't think I have someone. Izuku looked to the empty bed. Hawks didn't have an answer for the situation. Usually they keep it an even number. Okay. I know questions are a normal part of life. You're going to have so many in the first while you are here, but whatever you do, do not ask the teachers. They hate questions. Questions mean punishment. Why? I wish I could tell you. Izuku looked down to his sheets. He then quickly looked back up. You never told me your name. I'm called Hawks. I'm one of the top students. I don't understand why they say that. Just follow the rules and instructions they give you. Also, don't try to escape. I've watched someone get killed trying to. Killed? Izuku repeated the word. Outside these rooms, we act heartless. Some of us are. I'm not gone yet, but deep down we respect the other heroes in training here. Being alive is the only thing we own. I don't want to be here. None of us do. The commission buys kids off their parents. They probably do other things, but that's what happened to me. Really? We aren't supposed to talk about our life before the commission. He turned his head away, escaping from the conversation he accidentally created. Hawks, will I ever see my parents again? Not until they break you. Did they? I'm not completely broken yet like I said, but I can tell I'm almost where they want my mind, the young blonde admitted. Izuku let in a shaky breath. Hawks knew he was scaring him more than anything else, but he didn't want to give him false hope. The truth was the best for the future that would come. Go wash up and head to bed. They give the littles time to adjust so they aren't going to punish you for oversleeping or not knowing the training schedule. Clothes are usually in the cabinets. Laundry is picked up every day. Hope you like wearing gray sweats. It's all you wear. Dash. The sound of the door slamming open and hitting the solid wall woke Izuku up in a scare. His eyes went wide as his breathing became rapid. He sat up seeing someone in all black standing there. Breakfast is in 5. Hurry up. Izuku got out of bed quickly, glitching to the bathroom since it was going to be quicker for him. He stood on the step stool that Hawks had asked the adults to put in. His curls were messy, and his eyes were a shade darker. He barely got any sleep, letting his thoughts get to the best of him. He still had so many questions, but he wanted to follow the warnings he was given. Hawks wouldn't scare him for nothing, right? He was putting blind trust into another kid. Then again, the only people he trusted completely were his parents, but Hawks told him the commission would buy the kids off their parents. Did he mean nothing to his parents? He glitched to the hall and walked the pathway to the cafeteria. He retraced how he came with Hawks in reverse and ended up there alongside others. He couldn't tell exactly the age range, but the ones who seemed older had dead looks on their faces. It was as if they were machines. Hello. Izuku peeped at one of the older ones. The eyes of the taller ones glanced down at him. Shut up, little. Before we both get in trouble, they spoke, not caring about the age of the child they were talking to. Izuku looked back straight, feeling tears swell into his eyes. Did you come in yesterday too? A little girl walked up to him, her hair pulled back into a ponytail. Yay. Izuku nodded. The bigger ones seemed scary. She moved closer to Izuku. I want to go home, Izuku spoke. Me too. The doors to the cafeteria opened with most of the older students piling in first. Izuku noticed Hawks, pushing his way as well. Find your, I guess, big, and follow what they do, Izuku told the girl, before glitching next to Hawks. Hawks felt Izuku pop up next to him as they got to the window to receive the plate of food. Glitch, glad to see you made it here with no problem, Hawks spoke. Izuku gave him a weird look at first, only to remember that his dog tag said Glitch on it. Plus he had read it to Hawks the night before. Yay, I just followed how you showed me, but backwards. Hawks had a smirk on his face, but Izuku could tell it wasn't natural. It was as if he was practicing a fake smile. Hawks got a plate for himself and then helped Izuku get his since he was a little too short to get it for himself. Sit with me today. I'll give you a rundown on the schedule, he spoke, knowing that the adults were listening. The cafeteria had almost 20 people who worked for the commission. They were just the guards and security for that room at the time. Any and all conversations would be heard. Izuku followed Hawks to an empty table. The two sat down and Hawks immediately took a bite of food out of habit. There are 20 minutes for meals each every day. Breakfast, lunch and dinner. No snacks. First day for littles is testing your mind, body and quirk. Izuku took a bite of the tasteless food. He wanted to spit it out right away. It wasn't like his papa's cooking. They will go over the rules later, but just a warning, you can't use your quirk without special permission. Izuku felt immediately guilty. His glitching wasn't something to hide. He openly did it in front of others. Eat up, but don't overeat. You'll thank me later, he whispered that last part. Izuku nodded and only ate a few bites of a few things. After the fact he couldn't help but look around to how many kids were there. He wished he knew more numbers above 10. 20 minutes had passed and a bell alarm went off. Stay here, kid. The adults will help the littles. Good luck today, he spoke with the eyes of the previous night. Izuku could feel the difference in the sentence. He actually meant it. After a few minutes, only the littles were left sitting. They looked around to the other waiting. The cafeteria doors opened, revealing the higher-ups of the program with Inko leading the way. Good morning, heroes in training, she smiled, looking out to the 4-year-olds. Today we learn all about you as a person. I'm sure your bigs told you a few things already. Izuku looked down to his empty plate. He wanted to go home. Firstly, some rules. We don't believe in questions. Do what is asked of you and everything will be fine. No back-talking. No using quirks without permission and or supervision, Inko went on. Izuku honestly stopped paying attention as well as every other child there. Their minds weren't developed enough to understand the rules to their entirely. They would have to learn as they grew. This is why Inko did that. She would dump info on them, that way it was easier to break and mold them into what she wanted. She went on for a little longer of the rules before moving on. First, we are all going to go to a classroom and give a test to see how smart you are. Then, a fitness test. We will finish with a quirk assessment. I will be handling those personally with you. Izuku tilted his head. He wondered what would be on the test. He knew basic numbers and letters. If he was stuck there, at least he would get to learn. Don't worry about your food trays. We will guide you littles for a week. A single week is all you get, before you are thrown into the world of training. Now please follow this man here to the classroom. Inko gestured to a tall man with silver hair. Izuku gulped, standing up. It was going to be a long day. Reading, writing, math, hero history. Izuku was shocked to know more than what he thought. His reading was excellent compared to the others, even though his spelling could be worked on. What amazed the man watching and grading the test was Izuku's ability with numbers. Glitch, stay back, everyone else, break for lunch, the man with the silver hair spoke. Everyone but Izuku got up and rushed out the room tired from thinking. Izuku was nervous. Why did he have to stay back? Was he in trouble? Should he ask? No. Hawks told him they didn't like questions. He had to wait. When the door shut, the man walked next to the child, looking down. Tell me, Glitch, who taught you math? The teachers at the daycare. They taught us simple numbers. Those questions had adding and subtracting. It's a benchmark to see where your education is at. There was a picture frame with my parents' name in the house that had the cross like the questions. I guessed that you just put the numbers together that were next to that, Izuku spoke. The man raised an eyebrow. What about the straight line on its side? I just guessed it meant to take away. You're good with numbers. That's good to know. You'll be taught on a faster pace with that subject. Go join the rest for lunch. Remember, your quirk and physical assessment is next. Yes, sir. He gave a slight bow of the head before running off. Izuku took the warning Hawks gave with caution. He remembered being told by his parents to not eat a lot before moving around a lot, or he would get sick. He did just that. Out of the 9 of them, he was the only one who didn't throw up by the end of the physical assignment. When it came down to the quirks, Inko joined in with a number of instructors. They each had a folder and notepad. The 9 of them were lined up against the wall waiting. Inko and the instructors sat at a long table facing an open area in the training room. It looked like they were about to audition for a play. When I call your name, please give us the name of your quirk and a small demonstration, one of the instructors spoke aloud for the children to hear. One by one they were each called. They went down the line. Izuku noticed how being sick affected each of the people that went before him. Their quirks weren't steady and looked like they could go haywire any second. Glitch, he heard his name get called. For once he wasn't picked last for something. He stepped up in front of the table, making eye contact with Inko. Her green eyes locking in with his. They scared him. My quirk is called Database, he spoke, moving his eyes to another person so he wouldn't have to look at Inko anymore. He glitched from where he was to the back of the room, and then to a few more spots before ending back where he started. Do you know the drawbacks of your quirk? Another asked him. I get lines on my face. I was told they looked like a grid. Thank you, Glitch. Your file says the rest, Inko smiled. He glitched back in line not wanting to walk. They moved on to the next person and to the next until they were all finished. Great job on a good first day, littles. Tomorrow starts the hard work of your training. A detailed schedule will be given to you after dinner tonight. You are dismissed till then, Inko announced to them. Izuku let out a sigh. He didn't want to be alone. Deep down inside he knew. He was going to have to get used to being alone. Chapter text. It's been 24 hours, Shota. I don't like this. Hazashi tan his hands through his hair, trying to help his husband think of ways to get their son back. Trying to fight the people we work for without losing our jobs is kinda difficult, Shota mumbled. I don't care if we couldn't be heroes anymore. Our son is more important. We would get arrested. They would frame us of becoming villains. They would then take Izuku away again, bringing us back to this situation, but with us in jail instead, Shota gave the reality check to the both of them. Hazashi slouched deeper into the couch, accepting what his husband said. Shota was trying to brainstorm any way they could get their son back successfully without any drawbacks, but with each way he thought of, there were dead ends after dead ends. This is my fault, Hisashi spoke, his eyes draining in color. Shota snapped his head to his husband, immediately getting closer to him, holding him close. He let his thumb trace over Hisashi's arm, sending small chills through him. None of this is your fault. You couldn't control the traffic. The people who took him watched us for a while. They studied us. You did absolutely nothing wrong. You were being a great parent to our child, Shota cooed into Hisashi's ear. Shota felt the silent tears roll of Hisashi's face. He was taking in hard. Saying that and how I feel about it is easier said than to actually change, he sobbed, his tears becoming more than silent. I know, but I'll remind you every time that this is not your fault. It's Inko's. Hisashi let out a sigh, looking slightly upwards to Shota's face. What psychological things will she do to him? Shota bit the inside of his lip. When it comes to the mind, she can control it as she pleases. The problem is that it's nothing to do with her quirk. She's just that twisted. Hisashi decided to stand up and go get a cup of water for the two of them. His face was red and wet from the tears. He made eye contact with Shota. They both wanted to get Izuku back. They would never give up trying. What are the odds of us never seeing him again? I don't know. Call Inko. She's the one holding him against his will, but I don't know, Hisashi sighed. I'm just willing to try anything. We will try anything and everything. We just have to stay outside of a jail cell. 1 week. It had already been a week of the same routine that was being drilled into Izuku's. 5 a.m. wake up, 5:30 breakfast, 6 o'clock education, 11 a.m. lunch, 11:30 quirk training and physical training, 1700, 5 p.m. dinner. All the time after that was free time. They could rest in their room for the remainder of the night until lights out, curfew which was at 2200, 10 p.m. Izuku felt tired. His mind, his body, everything. He wasn't the age to be able to keep up with everything they threw at them. Each of the littles had already gotten punished already. It would be something as simple as them passing out, or not being able to keep up. Each punishment was done in front of the others as a warning. Izuku watched as children were slapped, punched, thrown, hair pulled, etc. The handprint on his cheek was finally fading away from where he received his punishment. Apparently he couldn't keep up with their standards with the physical part of the day. His body was giving out. He took every chance to rest or take a nap. The littles were already falling into the system that was built. No one cried anymore. Tears were just useless in the long run. No one was going to save them. Someone would have already if they did. Izuku gave up on the fact that Hisashi and Shota would come save him after day 4. He was exhausted and called out for them in the middle of the night, letting out a good cry. When he woke up the next morning, he was still in the cell that was called his room. He still had the slightest hope that they would come in and take him away from the pain, but that hope was the smallest thing he knew could exist. Hawks would come in before lights out to check on the child. The 11-year-old watched the smile fade from Izuku quickly. Smiling was a rare thing inside that program. Sure, a smirk would grow, but it wasn't true. No one felt joy. The joy they felt was limited to the moments or rest. The littles weren't allowed to talk to each other. It was one of the rules that Izuku couldn't understand. They aren't allowed to speak a word to another in the same age group. Izuku wanted to ask why, but he knew that it would earn him another slap to the face. Izuku was curled up on his bed having Hawks sit on the empty one on the other side of the room. Are you okay, kid? Hawks asked, knowing the answer already. Izuku stayed silent. Hawks bummed to himself, knowing that silence was normal for the new ones. It will get easier at points. Once they give you your special assignment, then you'll get a little more freedom. Well, not really, but it'll be better than what you are doing now. What special assignment? When you turn 8 or so and your quirk is more developed, they separate you into different sections of the hero world. I'm part of the undercover program. I'm being trained to work with different groups of people and change my personality based on who I'm around. Sounds like you won't be able to know your real self, Izuku mumbled. I haven't known my real self in years. Izuku and Hawks let out an equal sigh. Their life was just a cycle of the same things. Things would never change. How come we can ask each other questions? Izuku asked. turning his head slightly. I'm like your older brother here. They understand it's a lot to take in here, so we are like the get out of punishment card, Hawks spoke, air quoting the last part. Izuku giggled slightly. It was something he felt like he hadn't done in a while. How are you doing on your assessments? Hawks asked, wanting to know Izuku's standpoint on things comparing to his peers. Apparently I'm good at math. My spelling could use work, but I see letters all jumbled in my head. Hawks raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I used to play this coding game at daycare and there were numbers and letters jumbled together. It looked like nothing, but it was its own language to me that I knew well. Hawks knew that if Izuku would get to show that skill to the adults, then he would grow quickly within the program. He wondered if they would give him a computer as a reward based off his quirk. What about physical? Same as everyone. Quirk. I have more control than the others with my glitching, but they told me to create a grid in front of me. I can't do that. They probably had someone look into your quirk to guess the upgrades it will get. It's probably just to push you. They told me they would start to punish me if I couldn't do it. Hawks let out a breath. He knew those words weren't an empty threat. He remembered when he got challenged to control a group of his feathers. Hawks' quirk was called Fierce Wings. His wings seemed like a normal set of wings, but each one of his feathers could detach and be used in various ways through telekinesis. He remembered having to pluck a few of his own feathers to prepare his body for the pain of them coming off. Eventually, they got to the point where it didn't hurt anymore. He remembered the pain he inflicted on himself and the pain that adults caused just to get to that point with his quirk. Izuku would fall into the same path and he couldn't do anything about it. Don't give up, glitch. You'll get there one day. Pushing your quirk to a limit takes time. Yes, it can be painful, but it will help you survive. Thanks, Hawks. Hawks pushed himself onto his feet, off of the empty bed. I should be getting back to my room. My roommate is probably panicking why I'm not there yet. Don't get in trouble because of me. I won't. Hawks walked out the door, walking quickly to his dorm. He didn't know the exact time, but he knew it was getting late and lights out would soon happen. He didn't want to get caught in the hall sweep to make sure the heroes in training would be in their dorms. A short alarm sounded, sending deer through Hawks' body. There was no clock in Izuku's dorm. He just had to guess. He had to be careful. Stealth wasn't his strong suit. He was just starting his stealth training. With his wings though, it was hard to hide the presence of his wings. He slipped through the halls, attempting to avoid cameras and guards. It was easier said than done. He listened to the sound of footsteps and hushed voices, waiting for the perfect moment. He was always trying to listen ahead. However, that meant he wasn't listening from behind. Hawks. He heard his name spoken by an extremely deep voice. He knew he couldn't get out of this. Running would lead to a more extreme punishment. He straightened himself out and turned around to face the man. Sir, he spoke. Why are you out of your room? I was checking up on my little. I lost my sense of time. He hasn't been rewarded with a clock yet. Hawks spoke the truth. Lying would be pointless. You know the rules. I know. I'm ready for the punishment because of this. Please don't punish my little. He is still learning how the system works. Hawks never pleaded for anything. The last thing he wanted was for Izuku to get punished for his mistake. The guard let out a breath. The workers know small details about each other, the heroes in training. Hawks always did as he was told and rarely broke the rules anymore, but if a worker was caught giving one of them a free pass, then they would get the punishment instead. I won't punish Glitch, but that means you will get it instead. Is that clear? Crystal. Hawks followed the man to one of the punishment rooms. The closer they got to the room, more nervous Hawks became. Electricity was a weakness of his. Trigger warning. Child abuse with electricity. The room was dark, having a chair in the center. There wasn't a drop of dry blood anywhere on the ground. They were always careful that nothing would be left behind. You know what to do, the man said, getting the machine ready that sent electricity to a metal rod. Hawks climbed into the chair, bending down to strap his legs and one of his arms down. The guard did the last strap before putting on a rubber glove. It was a matter of slow-moving moments until Hawks couldn't hold back his screams. The feeling of the bolts of energy rushing through his body, creating pain in each section immediately became overwhelming. It lasted a few seconds before it happened all over again. His screams became hoarse immediately, his eyes slowly fluttering to the back of his head. That's when the guard stopped. He placed the metal rod down, turning off the machine. He undid the straps, getting shocked by the electricity that remained on Hawks's body. "What is your name?" he asked the child. "H. Hawks." "How old are you?" 11. "Who is your little GL Lich?" He struggles with the second sound of the word. "How old is he?" 4. "I'll help you walk to your dorm." The man picked Hawks up and went to place him on his feet. It took a second, but Hawks was able to barely stand on his 2 feet. With slow steps, they walked to the dorm that Hawks called his safe space. "Get some sleep," the man ended with, before Hawks stepped inside the room. He just went straight to his side of the room, knowing a shower would just hurt him more, or possibly kill him. "So they caught you," his dorm mate spoke, not even turning to him. "I almost made it," he forced a chuckle out of him. "Just remember the promise we made to each other when we first got here." "I know. Don't die." They spoke together before they closed their eyes for the night. Chapter text. Nezu noticed that something was off with 2 of his best teachers, even though he would never admit that last bit to anyone. Nezu, being the principal of UA High School, made it his personal mission to make sure his teachers and were in top shape to teach the children of today to become possible heroes of tomorrow. He knew about the married couple, and he also knew that they had a child from Shota's last relationship. However, he viewed that the child was Hisashi and Shota's. Nezu was well respected by everyone in the school, but not everyone in the hero world. Sure, there were times a few of them that accepted him in being a well-fit principal of a mostly hero school, but majority of the commission did not. They were at equal ground though. Nezu would leave them by and they would do the same to him. The balance would not be tipped. He had summoned the adults to his office before they left for the day. He wanted to get to the bottom of what was happening. It was well after the students had left. Shota and Hisashi sat in the chairs that faced Nezu's desk. From just that single moment, Nezu noticed that the both had bags under their eyes. They seemed stressed but not rushed. "You two have always been troublemakers. That being said, I have analyzed how the 2 of you act. I can tell something's wrong, but I can't figure it out." Nezu sat in his ba chair, letting his paws fold together. The 2 were quiet. They shared a glance as if they were having a silent conversation. Nezu waited patiently for their response. Whatever was going on was hard on them. He understood that much. "Our son, someone took him, but the people who took him, it's impossible to get him back without breaking a few laws," Shota stated bluntly. Nezu went wide-eyed. "Who took the green bean? I'll start calling every hero." "Please don't. The commission took him. They are going to control the heroes you call," Hisashi added, sounding more depressed out of the 2. "If I may ask, why do you believe it's the commission?" Nezu asked. "The woman that came a while back, her name is Inko Midoriya. She works for the commission. She asked if Izuku could join a special program. I declined the offer, but with her, she gets what she wants." A breath could be heard from the small creature. He let that woman in. He let her talk to Shota. He felt as if this was his fault. "Nezu, please, we need help to get our son back," Hisashi pleaded. Nezu's dark eyes looked at the 2 adults. "I want to, but I can't." Shota and Hisashi were taken aback for a moment. "Why? Is our son not important? I love this child more than my own life. Without him, I'm nothing. I'm a father before anything else, and my child is in a danger that I can't get him out of." Nezu let Shota express his anger. Hisashi tried to calm his husband, but if Nezu understand one thing about humans, feelings were complex. They needed to be shared if they were understood. "Shota, I know Izuku means the world to you. However, the commission and that's where the problem lies. They don't see me as an appropriate leader of this high school, being what I am. We are on even grounds. If I challenge them for this child, I could lose this position. You 2 would also take the downfall." Shota cursed silently, slouching in his seat. They were back at the beginning. Hisashi let out a sigh. "We understand. This situation is just unfortunate and evil, Nezu finished. I just want Izuku back. Shota had tears starting to flow down his eyes. We won't stop till we do. Shoto tossed himself onto his bed, letting out a breath. Ever since he developed his quirk, his father pushed him in training every single day. It didn't stop when his mother poured boiling water into his face on his fireside. The burn would scar. Her ice cooled the burn too quickly. His hand grazed over the bandage that covered the burn. He wished he could speak to the boy from the waiting room. He wondered if his parents were pushing him as much as his father was. He just wanted someone to talk to. He would be dragged away from his siblings every day. He would never forget the emerald eyes with matching hair. He would recognize it in an instant. Hawks usually stayed to himself when he could. He was the top of his age group, if not the entire facility. His big died during a training exercise gone wrong, at least that was what he was told. In truth, Hawks believed that he became too weak for the facility's liking. If you are deemed weak and show no promise, they create a training that usually results in a fight to the death. Hawks remembered his first kill. He was only 7 when someone in his group too deemed weak. That's how he figured out about his big. He was only 6 when he died. Hawks became cold after his first kill. He stayed in the gym that they could use during their free time and train. Slowly, he got better, but him being 11, he was still on the edge of breaking to be the commission's perfect little hero. The gym was one of his safe places. He was doing some exercises for his wings, making sure his control could remain pinpoint. He was in deep thought and didn't notice a person taller than him wearing the same clothes as him walk into his line of sight. It looks like you are showing off your wings, the person spoke, capturing Hawks' attention. Serious, where the hell have you been? Hawks immediately stopped what he was doing. It had been a few weeks since he last spoke to the person he looked up to most in that place. You know I hate that name. You know I go by Toyu and not around them. The 13-year-old rolled his eyes. You don't know who's around, Hawks warned him. No one is here but me and you, Kegio, he smirked. Sharing your birth name was against the rules. The person you were before the commission was supposed to die as soon as you walked in. However, these two felt the bond of something else. Sharing their true name felt important. Your burns, they are getting worse, aren't they? Kegio noticed the darkened skin on the taller's chin. I'll be fine. I like your eyes, Kegio admitted, feeling hypnotized by the crystal blue eyes Toyua had. It also didn't help that his hair was pure white. That included his eyelashes. Toyua chuckled to himself. Thanks, little bird, the teen smirked once again. Going back, where have you been? It's been a while since I last saw you. Those stupid adults thought they could change my attitude. It's not my fault that I hate them just as much as my father. Did he sell you to them? Nope. I faked my death to get away from him and these idiots found me. I've told you about he would make me train every day. Then my youngest brother was born with visible 1/2 and 1/2 hair. Did you want to be a hero? Hawks asked. More than anything, I'm not so sure now. What would you do if you could leave here? What would your life be? Toyua leaned against the wall, shrugging his shoulders. My life has been full of training. I want to help others, but I want to help the ones who've been mistreated. Kegio didn't know what he meant by that. It sounded like he wanted to be a hero to the outsiders, not everyday people. I got a little. Kegio changed the subject. Toyua's eyes widened. Getting a little was an honor that only a few could uphold. It was a test to the elite if they could handle the responsibility of another. Is he strong? What's his quirk? How long has he been here? Wait, why am I assuming it's a boy? Is it a girl? Slow down, Firehouse, his name is Glitch. His handle on his quirk is out of the norm already. He's strong for his age group. He's only been punished once or twice, I think. How long has it been since he got here? A week. And only 2 punishments. I warned him about a lot of things. His mind is already breaking though. His parents, I don't know who they are, but he's giving up on being saved. The faster he does, the faster he could focus on surviving this hell. Toyua, do me a favor and don't get in trouble again that I don't see you for weeks. Being the bad boy of the facility is my role and might I say, I do it quite well. Shota stared down his phone. He didn't want to call the number that was typed in, but he had to. Hazashi stood by his side, holding onto Shota's hand trying to calm his nerves. I hate the fact that I had to keep her number because of Izuku, Shota groaned. But having her personal number is going to help us not get caught in the red tape of the commission. Shota let out a sigh and clicked the call button. The ring of the phone echoed in the silence of their home. It lasted a few seconds before it stopped. Inko speaking. Inko, it's Shota. It's been a while. It's been a month since we last spoke. How are you? Her voice turned sweet, but Shota and Hazashi knew the venom that was truly there. Cut the crap, Inko. We need to talk about Izuku, Shota demanded. Izuku, our son. He hated saying that to her. Shota, the person you are referring to is in his classes right now. So you admit the commission has him. I didn't agree to this and you know it. You see, for a child to be brought into the program, both parents must give their opinion and choice in the matter. I didn't allow it, but his mother did. Shota went cold. Hazashi noticed his husband's face change. Anger was building up. She had 4 years to be a mother to Izuku and she chooses now to use that title. You are the person who gave birth to him, but you are not his mother. Shota, the commission looks at the birth parents of a child as the parents. Now, I must really be going. The littles are needing to be going eat lunch soon. Inko, I just want my son back. You will one day, but that day is not today. The line went silent before disconnecting. Shota's anger turned into tears. Hazashi immediately got up from his seat and wrapped his arms around him. The two adults felt broken without the 4-year-old being there. Izuku was their son, not hers. But fighting the commission was a losing battle. They would never win against them. Hazashi, we have to let them keep him, Shota mumbled. What? Why do you say that? We have to keep trying. You heard her. She can twist anything to make her seem in the right. We can't win with her. Hazashi let out a sigh. Even though he didn't want to admit it, Shota was right. I wish I had never got with her. Shota's tears became heavier, crying into Hazashi. Hazashi let his fingers comb through the midnight black hair, knowing it calmed the both of them. If you did that, we wouldn't have Izuku, or each other. The two men broke down. They would still fight for their son, but it was just a matter of time before they could try to save him again. Chapter text. Izuku had lost track of the days already. He didn't know if a week had passed or a month. He couldn't remember when was the last time he saw his parents. Shota and Hazashi weren't even his parents anymore. He was part of the commission. His mind had been broken to that. Hawks noticed the small boy walk into the dining hall with a darkness over him. Glitch. He called out to him. Izuku turned his head slightly, seeing the other. He was able to get the plate of food on his own and made his way to the table where Hawks was. Glitch, how did you sleep last night? Izuku looked at him with a dead face. His eyes were the only thing that moved. The image of white hair with small red parts say next to the winged person. So, you're Hawks' little. Pleasure to meet you, kid. The name's serious, even though I despise it, Troyua rambled, introducing himself. Hawks, who is he? Troyua rolled his eyes, thinking he did well in introducing himself. He didn't think about how broken Izuku's mind was already. Don't mind him. Sirius here is my closest friend in this place. He's 13, but only got roped into this place a few years ago. I faked my own death to get away from my father, he put bluntly. How come this is the first time I've seen you? Izuku asked the eldest. I'm what you call the troublemaker. I don't really care if I live or die. They see me as too powerful to kill, so they just put me through punishment after punishment when I break the rules. Which is often. Hawks finished, taking a bite of his breakfast. The two older boys spoke to each other back and forth. Izuku wanted to understand how they could talk to each other with such ease. Was it because they had roommates in their dorms to talk to? Izuku didn't have anyone to talk to other than Hawks. Izuku picked at the food, not feeling hungry. You should eat something. They get mad if you eat nothing, Hawks warned him, noticing what Izuku was doing. We have an assignment in the coming week. They want me to create the grid by then, Izuku spoke, recalling what he had told Hawks before. Have you been practicing? Yes, I can make a small one, but it doesn't last very long, Izuku answered. Hawks let out a sigh of relief. The commission workers that conducted the assessments took into consideration the ages. They knew a quirk couldn't go from 0 to 100 in a matter of days. That's good, kid. Hawks told me slightly about your quirk before you got here. You're pretty powerful for being so small. Serious? Hawks hit his arm, almost letting his true name spill out. I've overheard the adults saying something similar, Izuku mumbled, forcing himself to take a bite of his food. Hawks let out a sigh. Depending on a person's background, the time it took for them to break would change. Himself, he almost broken, but Toyua kept him grounded. Izuku had nothing. The hope he had on the first day was gone. He didn't even last 2 weeks. Crap, Inko is coming over. Toyua looked down, making sure to avoid all eye contact with the woman. Hawks and Izuku acted normally. Inko arrived at the table in the matter of seconds, taking a seat with the boys, right next to Izuku. Good morning, boys, she spoke with a soft voice. Good morning, Ms. Inko, Hawks and Izuku replied. Morning, Toyua mumbled out, still looking to his plate. Izuku noticed Toyua's attitude change. He seemed afraid of her. Good to see you back in action, serious. I hope we don't have to send you through the punishments again. Besides, Hawks has a little. He's going to be looking up to the both of you, she roped Izuku into her small speech. Glitch told me that he's been practicing creating a small grid. Hawks showed off his little to Inko. Really now, Glitch, how is it going with that? Her attention went to him. It's not big, but it's there. I want to learn how to control it before I have to make it big, he told her, locking his eyes with her. Control is something to master to understand the ability of our quirks. Great work, Glitch, she smiled. Izuku replied with a small smile. Hawks watched the two interact. It wasn't the first time, but at that moment, he noticed their eyes were one of the same. Glitch, you and Mrs. Inko have the same eyes. Hawks let the kid in him slightly come out. It's pretty cool, right? Izuku's gaze went to Hawks. Our hair is similar too, Izuku pointed out. Inko was taken aback. She didn't know that Izuku could tell they were similar. What about our hair is similar? She asked him, wanting to know more. The color. My birth father gave me the black in my hair, but it's still green. Also our curls, but yours are more curly than mine. Inko smiled truly. Her son knew they were similar. She knew that one day she would tell him the truth about their relation, but she wanted to wait till he was older. She had to watch him grow for himself. He was the commission's child. Well, it's almost time for you three to go to class. I'll leave you be. Serious, stay out of trouble. She rose from her seat, walking away from the boys. Hawks' eyes followed her and made sure she was a ways away before he spoke. You can breath now, serious. The eldest let out the breath he was holding. He wasn't scared of a lot of things, but that woman. She scared him the most. Izuku didn't bother to notice the two older boys interact. He wanted to go to his class already. His parents weren't going to save him. The people in this place cared for him. They just expected him to become a great hero in return. He accepted the fate. He didn't care if he saw Shota and Hizashi again. That day, he decided that his parents were no more. The commission was his home. He would do as they asked. He was the easiest mind to break and the easiest to rebuild. Izuku mastered his quirk to his almost full when he was 6 years old. Get away from me, a young boy just the young age of 6 yelled at a stray cat, going to eat the food that he had found. Hitoshi Shinso was used to living to the streets. His father was a controlling maniac over his mother, and his mother, even though she acted as if she never cared about him, he would always love her. Hitoshi would catch the small moments of her love, only to be crushed moments later by his father. His mother abandoned him in the middle of the streets one day, never to be seen again. Hitoshi had been alone for a year. He would go through garbage, finding anything and everything to help him survive. The clothes he wore were stained and smelled like trash and sweat combined. His quirk was called brainwashing. If he asked someone a question and they replied, he could temporarily take over their mind, controlling them to how he sees fit. He only used it for emergencies. He knew that a quirk like that would only get the wrong kind of attention. Hitoshi took a bite of the food that he had gathered for his dinner. Granted, it was almost the middle of the night, but it was the only time for him to go unnoticed. He didn't want to be found. Someone would find him and pass him to another set of people. He had seen the movies growing up. Foster homes and orphanages was the things he wanted to avoid. A loud crash took a hold of his attention. He could hear voices echo through the alleyway. He knew it would be best to stay back, but it was the middle of the night. The people out at this time wouldn't care about a kid. He stepped closer and closer to the entree of the alleyway, poking his head around the corner. His eyes widened, seeing it was pro-hero Eraserhead. He had seen the few reports done on him. Eraserhead was his idol. He wanted to be just like him. Go home before I call your parents. How would they feel if you were out this late alone? Hitoshi watched the man speak to a teenage boy. The boy was full of fear, feeling intimidated by the adult. He ran off before any other words could be said. Wow, Hitoshi whispered to himself. However, it was loud enough for Eraserhead to hear. The man snapped his head to the voice. He saw the quick movement of someone hiding, but he couldn't make out the age or anything else. I know you're there. Better to come out before I have to drag you out, he warned, giving whoever it was a chance to reveal themselves. Hitoshi's breathing quickened. His idol was calling out to him. The man is a hero. Someone who cares about the well-being of a child. Hitoshi was going down a rabbit hole of thoughts, thinking about what the rest of his life will be after that moment. He was so lost in thought he didn't see Eraserhead move to stand right next to him. Shota looked down at the small child. He seemed to be around the same age as Izuku would be. Shota crouched down to be on eye level with the child. Hitoshi snapped out his thoughts, staring directly into Shota's eye. Fear immediately ran throughout his body, scared of what was to come next. What's your name, kid? Hitoshi. Hello, Hitoshi. Do you know who I am? Shota spoke in a calm voice. You're Eraserhead. I've seen you on TV before, Hitoshi spoke, stuttering at a few words. Why are you alone in an alleyway? He asked. Shota could tell he had been there first a while. His skin was dirty, with the clothes being even worse. My parents left me. The sentence that would be the beginning of the end. His life was over in that moment, or was it? How long ago? A year. Shota immediately put his hand out in front of him for Hitoshi to take it. If you'd like, you can come clean up and get refreshed where I live. It's just me and my husband. He put a soft smile on his face, hurting slightly at his own words. I don't trust you, Hitoshi told the man, even though he looked up to him. He would just send him to the places where he didn't want to go. That's okay. I'm not going to force you to go anywhere. I just wondered if you wanted to clean up and get some fresh clothing on. You could also sleep in an extra bed that we have. Hitoshi looked into the back of the alleyway. The cat from before was eating at the small stash of food that he had kept for emergencies. He looked back at the man who never took his eyes off of him. Fine. The boy took his hand. Shota and Hizashi closed the door to the room where Hitoshi slept. The child was out like a light, as soon as his head hit the soft pillow. Shota was visibly uneasy. It wasn't the fact that there was a random child sleeping in their home, but it was a child that seemed close to Izuku's age. You know it's not our Izuku, right? Hizashi placed a hand on his husband's shoulder. I know. I just couldn't see a child alone on the streets. I know it's not him, but they seem to be the same age. Izuku would be 6 by now. So what's the plan with Hitoshi? He asked. Going based off how he reacted towards me, I don't think he will do good in foster care. It seemed like he was taking a risk coming here. We will give him a choice then. If he wants, he can stay here, Hizashi spoke. Shota's eyes widened. Are you sure? What about Izuku? What if he comes back and sees Hitoshi? The commission probably warped his mind and... That's if Hitoshi wants to stay here with us. Plus, Izuku would understand. He would want his father to share his love with others. His father is a hero. Hizashi placed a small kiss on Shota's cheek, causing a blush to slightly form at his cheeks. I love you. I love you more. Let's double check the house is locked. Something tells me this kid is going to try to run away, Shota warned. I'll make sure to wake up in a few hours to make breakfast, Hisashi smiled warmly. Chapter text. Izuku sat in the middle of his room. His eyes were shut as he listened to the silence of the room. It had been 2 years since he was brought to this place. 2 years since Shota and Hisashi abandoned him. 2 years since he lost hope. Izuku became one of the top heroes in training in a matter of months. He was almost fully capable of controlling his entire quirk. The only part that he hadn't tested was the virus. He overheard the adults talk about it and how it would be important to his special assignment. Based on his knowledge of what it was supposed to be, he would become an assassin. He had already killed a few others during his time in the commission. Some were older than him, others were his age. Based on his education classes, there was only 5 of his age group remaining. The silence was broken by the door slamming open. Glitch. Hawks immediately spoke. Izuku peeked to see his big walking in. The 2 of them were in the same quirk classes. However, the white-haired teen was always in and out. Where's Sirius? He asked the blonde. Punishment again. Apparently, he set ablaze to some equipment. Hawks made his way to the chair that was now in Izuku's room. Izuku's room changed a lot since he started. He had a clock on the wall, a desk and table, with a few decorations to make the place not feel so dull. It's a miracle that he isn't dead, Izuku admitted. Sometimes I think he's trying to die, Hawks spoke, hiding the sadness in his voice. Or he's looking for an escape. We all know it's impossible though. Hawks nodded, not wanting the topic to continue. If Toyua died, then he would have no one. Izuku was broken mind and body. Toyua was the one who kept him sane. Hawks watched as Izuku got up from the ground and grabbed a book that was on his desk. I overheard the adults talking about giving me my special assignment. Hawks was slightly surprised. Izuku was well above the average for his age. That included everything about him. His quirk, the way he spoke and moved, his mind. The only thing that didn't quite measure up was his height. He was still quite short compared to the other kids in the program. Any guesses? No, he lied. In the commission there were assignments that weren't allowed to be talked about. Most of them were the extreme undercover roles. One of them was the assassin assignment. He would just have to wait. I heard a rumor that one of the guards is related to Inko in some way. Hawks detached one of his feathers, messing around with it. So a guard is related to the woman who runs this place. I don't believe it. Izuku threw himself on his bed. We have to keep ourselves entertained somehow. Hawks tried to pull Izuku to being a normal kid for a moment. Speeding untrue rumors isn't exactly entertaining. What if they overhear? Punishments are sure to follow. Hawks let out a sigh while Izuku opened the book. I can't wait till I am able to graduate out this place. When should that be? I think it's when we are 18 or 19. I'm 13 now, so in 5 years. Snow White is 2 years older than you, right? Izuku poked fun at Toyua. He is. I'm sure he'll find some way to still defy them. Izuku didn't say a word in return as he read his book. They were able to get a rest day on the same day. Usually that meant hanging around in the dorms until meal times. Hawks noticed Izuku change from the small child he was. His hair was longer. He had gotten taller, but not by much. The change that stuck out the most to him was the way his hair looked. When Izuku first came to the commission, he had soft, barely noticeable waves. It seemed the older Izuku got, the tighter the curl pattern got. It looked just like Inko's. I'm surprised they haven't made you cut your hair yet. Hawks pointed out the fact that Izuku's hair was touching at his shoulders. Me too. I kinda like it though. He showed one of the rare moments of emotions. It honestly sweets you. If they let you keep it long, you should let it grow out. If you don't like it, you can always cut it off. It's just hair anyway. I'll keep that in mind. Izuku pressed on a smile. Hawks was happy to see that Izuku wasn't totally heartless. He was broken, but to still have a fraction of the heart was the greatest thing of all. His hope was gone, not his emotions. Hawks watched Izuku mess with the tag that he was given by him as he read. It was the same chain and tag since it still fit right on his chest. Do you miss them? Hawks asked him. Izuku looked over to him with a weird look. Who? He asked, not know if he was talking about his old classmates that died or someone else. Your parents, Hawks spoke on a whisper. Asking about the past was against the rules. Izuku's face went sour. The memories of his first week in the commission flashed into his mind. The tears, the screaming, the heartbreak. They don't care about me. I don't care about them. He spoke the truth. I get that first part. Hawks recalled his own mother selling him to the commission to save herself from his father. The man was a drunk and would always hunt them down. His mother wasn't the best match in the box either. He wondered if his life would have been better if he was in or out the commission. It was one hell or the other to him. The two stayed in silence until the door slammed open with a black and bruised Toiwa limping in. Serious. Both the younger boys were in shock seeing him. Immediately they got up and helped him get to the chair that Hawks was sitting in. I'll get the first aid. Izuku rushed to his bathroom. What the hell happened? Hawks asked, seeing the burn marks under the bruises. I told them I would tell everyone the truth once I got out. I don't care if the world goes into shock seeing I'm alive. And they did this. Inko was there. I said something about glitch. I don't remember exactly, but it pissed her off big time. She seems protective of him. Toiwa, it's like you're asking for them to kill you. Hawks glared at him. Toiwa. Izuku's voice was heard. Both of them looked to the youngest with fear on their faces. Glitch, that's Sirius's given name. I know it's against the rules but nothing. It's against the rules. The person we were before doesn't exist. Izuku spoke, holding the first aid. Kid, if you really care about your big, please don't tell them, Toiwa pleaded, groaning in pain, feeling the bruises start to pulse. What if they find out that I know? They won't. We can all just forget this happened. Hawks spoke up, reaching for the first aid. Izuku handed the bird the box, going quickly grab a towel. Once he got back, he helped Hawks clean up Toiwa. The three stayed quiet with the moments of Toiwa hissing in pain. I won't say anything, Izuku told them once they finished. Hawks and Toiwa glanced over to the young child with soft yet surprised eyes. Like you told me when I first got here, our dorms are our safe place, Izuku spoke. I just want us to live, he admitted. We are all going to get out this place one day. If Toiwa here doesn't start behaving himself, he won't have an easy time like me and you would, Hawks eyed the eldest. It's not my fault that I hate being controlled. It's called trauma for a reason, he defended himself, wincing when they would press something onto him. The three of them chose to relax and read the rest of the day. They wanted to make the most of a day off. Hitoshi was mad at the fact that when he woke up, Hizashi was already awake and making breakfast. He pouted sitting at the high table, watching the blonde cook. Do you like eggs? Hizashi asked him. Yay, he mumbled. His purple hair was matted and felt heavy against his head. Sleeping on a soft pillow in bed made him realize it. His body felt more relaxed than what it had been in the last year, yet his mind was still on edge. He was ready to bolt at any second. He just couldn't do it near someone that would stop him. I'm so sleepy, Shota yawned, turning the corner into the kitchen. Good morning. Morning show. I already started a pot of coffee, Hizashi smiled, finishing up the last bit of eggs. This is the reason I married you, Shota joked, immediately going to the cabinet that has the mugs. Shota glanced over to the small child, seeing him eye the coffee pot. Good morning, Hitoshi. His gaze snapped out and away from the coffee pot and to the coffee addict himself. Morning, Eras Shota. Have you had coffee before? My mom would let me have some when my dad wasn't looking. Shota grabbed another mug, pouring 2 cups instead of just 1. He placed the pot back and walked over to the child. It wasn't a full cup, but it was enough for the taste of it. Do you want any sugars or creamer in it? No thanks. She liked her with nothing in it. Smart woman when it comes to coffee, Shota chuckled, sitting next to him. Breakfast is ready. Hizashi brought 2 plates to Shota and Hitoshi, going back and grab his own. Let's bring everything to the table. Shota helped Hitoshi bring everything to the table. Hizashi and Shota felt as if they were slightly whole again, seeing the once empty chair full again, but it truly wouldn't feel full without Izuku. What are you two going to do with me? Hitoshi asked straight up. Shota noticed Hitoshi's eyes were unlike a child's. He had noticed that they were more mature. Hitoshi was trying to figure out his future. He was trying to figure out what he should do next. It was something a normal 6-year-old shouldn't have to worry about. You can stay here as long as you want. We will give you food and a place to sleep. We just ask in return that you don't go out into the streets alone, Shota spoke. We are letting you choose. We both think that kids should be able to choose whatever they want with reason. We won't force you to do anything you don't want to do, Hizashi added, giving the same message they told their son before. You won't force me to do something? Hitoshi repeated in a form of a question. You're a kid. Your worries should just be what toy you want to play with, not what am I going to eat and where am I going to sleep tonight. Hitoshi looked to the food on his plate. A warm meal in the morning was something he hadn't had in a while. It would be rare when his mom would cook him something. He didn't understand the relationship between his parents. Looking at Shota and Hizashi, the differences were countless. Thank you for the meal, Hizashi spoke before digging into the food in front of him. Thank you for the meal, the two adults spoke before coining the same. I'll stay. I don't want to be alone anymore, Hitoshi let out a stay tear. He was alone in the streets. Before he had his mother, but their relationship didn't seem the healthiest. Hizashi, tell Nezu I'm not going in today. Of course. What do you want your class to do? Free period. Wait, are you two pro-heroes along with something else? Hitoshi asked. Both of us are heroes by night and teachers by day. Hizashi smiled brightly. Then when do you sleep? That kid is why coffee is a must in this house, Shota commented before taking a sip from his mug. Hitoshi let out a small laugh. He didn't know what his future would hold, but staying here would be the best. No living in the streets, no fighting animals for his food, no risking his life for a meal. These two men wanted to make sure he would be okay. They would give him food, give him a place to sleep. He was putting blind trust into them, but he could tell it would all be worth it. Chapter text. Glitch, why are you holding back? The adult screamed in his face, scolding him for not fully attacking his opponent. The teen he was against was already black, bruised and bloody on the ground. He wasn't begging for mercy verbally, but Izuku could read their eyes as if they were an open book. They were pleading with every single fiber inside for him to stop. Izuku knew better than to talk back to the adults. All he did was shift his eyes to the man yelling at him. Glitch, you are the youngest person to reach this level of the quirk class. Your opponent should be on the brink of death in a spar. There wasn't a to the death rule, he snapped back. The built man grabbed a hold of the front of Izuku's shirt, practically lifting him off the ground. Did you talk back to me? Izuku gave him a smug look. He knew the time and place to talk back even though it was against the rules. I simply followed your orders. The challenge was to make our opponent unable to fight. I achieved said goal, did I not? Izuku's face did not change a single bit the entire time. Hawks watched like everyone else from their own fights. When it came to Izuku's stone-cold face, nothing could break it. It was like if fear didn't exist. The group watched as the man threw Izuku to the ground, causing his body to slightly bounce off it. Izuku attempted not to hiss at the sudden pain, feeling his body hit the rough, practically concrete flooring. Attempting being the key word. In a twisted way, the adult smiled hearing the small amount of the pain the child expressed. Glitch, you are sent to the punishment room for talking back to a superior. The man boomed. Hawk's eyes widened slightly hearing the order. Two of the guards that stood posted at the door of the room grabbed Izuku by the arms, dragging him out. Everyone back to your fights. The man yelled, still ignoring Izuku's opponent who was still on the ground. Izuku didn't fight back. He didn't even mumble a sound as he was ushered through the halls and stairwells of the commission training facility. Izuku was pushed into a room where other adults were speaking to one another as if they were waiting for someone to come in. This is a first, one of them spoke seeing one of the top students enter. Glitch disrespect and didn't follow his instructor's orders, the guard informed the group. Izuku rolled his eyes slightly knowing he followed the orders he was given. Thankfully, no one day him do that. Still in all, Glitch has never been sent to the punishment area, one of the women spoke. This just proves that even the most skilled need to be disciplined, another spoke. Toss him in the room. The guard nodded and tightened his grip onto Izuku as if he was going to fight back. Izuku didn't know that the punishment area had changed since Hawks had been in it. Hawks would tell him about the electricity he would have to endure when he was sent to the room. Toyua refused to speak about the details of his punishments, but Izuku could never figure out if it was becoming he didn't want or if he was forced to. Izuku led as tossed into an empty room. The walls were white and cameras lined all over. The room was pretty large, seeming to be slightly larger than his dorm room. Izuku walked to one of the walls and leaned against it. If his punishment was being alone, then they truly didn't understand how alone he was most of the time. No roommate means no one to always talk to. Sure, he had Hawks and Toyua, but they weren't with him 24/7. That's when he heard gears shift. He could hear something in the walls alter and change. Something more was going to happen, but he couldn't figure out what. Leviathan had avoided the small boy he had kidnapped for the 2 years he had been in the commission. Leviathan knew what his role was in the commission. He didn't dare stray from his tasks, but when it came to Glitch, something didn't set right. Inko was treating the child differently than what she normally would. He noticed how she would smile more brightly at his success. He noticed how she spoke softer to him, but only in the slightest. It was the little details that stuck out to him. Being a shapeshifter, the finer details made it just as important. He was doing his rounds, his dark hair slicked back. He poked his head into the punishment area of the building. He noticed everyone's eyes were fixed on the monitors. What did the fire boy do this time? He asked, assuming who it was. For once it isn't him. Glitch is here. He was taken aback by the name. Why Glitch? He's one of the best rule followers there are. Leviathan was genuinely confused. Keeping tabs on the heroes in training was part of his job. According to the guard, he didn't follow orders. He also disrespected his instructor. Knowing the people whose egos are larger than this building that work here, Glitch was probably following the orders to the T. They just changed it and blamed it on him. Leviathan raised an eyebrow. You're most likely correct, but there's nothing we can do about that. Leviathan sighed, knowing there was nothing he could do for the boy. So what punishment is he getting? Since his quick is technology-based, we think water will be a weakness for him. So you're going to drown him. It won't be long enough to kill him, but enough to scare him. Most of the heroes in training that don't have their special assignment don't know how to swim. Leviathan watched the screen they all watched. Izuku was listening to everything around him. His eyes were searching for one thing while his ears searched for another. Slowly let the water pool in, an order was placed by one of the men. Leviathan stood back, seeing the buttons and logarithms. They went trough to have gallons of water start to pour into the room where Izuku was. Izuku didn't panic immediately, but was shocked at the cold water started to come from around him. Slowly, the water level rose, going from his feet to his knees. He looked up to see the water was not stopping. Even though the water was getting higher and higher, he knew they wouldn't kill him. He just had to get through it. Leviathan didn't see the panic wash over the child like the others. Izuku seemed to just be waiting in his eyes. Soon the water reached just above his face. For a few moments, Izuku felt the weightlessness of his body in the water. He seemed to be just floating, but not knowing how to swim was his downfall. A small breath escaped his lips. The small bubbles led to larger bubbles. Water filled his mouth and nose, suffocating him. The seconds stretched into minutes as he felt his head become lighter. His vision started to go black, but that was when the water quickly drained from the room. The water escaped trough small openings that had reveled themselves from the walls and floor. Izuku coughed up the water from his lungs as he lied on the ground, breathing deeply. His hair and clothes were cold and clung to his skin. The noise around him didn't seem normal for a few moments. All he knew was that he felt a towel wrap around him as he was getting lifted up. He was being carried out of the room and into the one before. "I'll go make sure he recovers correctly," he heard the person tell the others. They exited the room and made way in the halls. His hearing and eyesight went back to normal as he shivered. "I can walk," he spoke, trying to not seem weak. "I am keeping you from going in shock. You'll thank me later," the man told him. Izuku squinted his eyes. trying to get a better look at the man. His dark hair was pulled back, with a few pieces falling out of place. The skin was more pale than tan, but it was familiar. I know you don't. The man stooped and put Izuku down. They were in front of Izuku's dorm. Izuku was able to get a better look at the man, crossing his arms to keep warm. Let's get you in some dry clothes, then we can talk about the question. Technically you broke a rule, but I'll let it slip by. Izuku bit his tongue, hating himself that he let a question spill past his lips. The two of them walked into the room, heading to the dresser where Izuku's sweats were. Izuku slipped out his wet clothes and put on his dry ones, feeling better already. He still felt cold, but it wasn't horrible. Glitch, do you know my name? I know I'm not someone to see every day, but you're the guy that was with the quirk doctor. Your name is Leviathan, right? Leviathan's expression went to shock. You remember that? That was 2 years ago. I have a good memory, he shivered. I'm guessing that's a byproduct of your quirk. The doctor missed that. Why are you here? I thought you were becoming a doctor, but going how you're here, then something is wrong, Izuku asked, looking away. I'm sorry. I asked another question. Don't be sorry, kid. That's a reasonable question. I don't get mad if they are reasonable. Sometimes curious minds need to know. Never mind that. I was never actually becoming a doctor. I'm what you might call a recruiter. I get sent out to find kids and teens who have the makings in becoming a hero. If I see something I like, I tell my boss about it and then she takes care of the rest. Inko is your boss, I'm guessing. Leviathan nodded, giving an answer. She's the top person here. She's the head of the program. All things run through her. She's going to hear about my punishment. Izuku got nervous at that fact. He knew she showed interest in him. There was no secret about it. He didn't want to let her down. She will. Izuku glanced down to the floor. He could feel the guilt build up inside. Don't take it to heart. That instructor hates being proven wrong. You simply just did that. So I'm the one who gets punished when he is wrong. Only his eyes went back up to the man. I'm going to tell you something that I learned when I was Hawks' age. Leviathan paused, taking a seat on the unused bed in the room. Sometimes the good suffers for the bad. The egos of people can be bigger than buildings. What are egos? Izuku questioned, confused at the word. Leviathan gave a confused look in return. It then hit him like a ton of bricks. I forget that you're only 6. Age is just a number. That's what the teachers and instructors tell us, Izuku spoke. Leviathan knew his role in the commission. He did all of his jobs willingly. He knew the consequences of his job. However, moments like this would remind him the part of his job that he hated. I'm sorry, Glitch, he apologized without explaining. Why? Don't worry about that one. Why don't you take a small rest? You seem paler than what you usually are. I'm surprised you're taking the water punishment how you are. He got up from the bed, making sure to fix any parts that got messed up. Can you ask Hawks to come over before dinner? Leviathan smiled, watching Izuku crawl into his bed. Of course. Just remember the question rule. Don't test the waters. You know what kind of questions you can ask me in Hawks. Don't push for the other kinds. Yes, sir. Leviathan gently smiled, exiting the room. I'll see you at dinner time. Izuku watched the man close the door behind him. Hearing the sound of the hinges creaking closed, he let loose of his control. Each time he shivered, his glitch would act up. His body tensed up as if it was going into shock. He forced his hand to be in front of his face. He watched as his quirk would make his body extremely glitchy. I guess technology and water don't mix, he pained himself to speak out loud. It took him a while before he calmed down, was finally able to rest. He officially knew one of his weaknesses. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.